Mario Kart 8, the 5th best-selling video game of all time, and today's video topic is I'm going to rank all 96 of its tracks. Hold the phone, folks. I'm getting an important news flash from Petrie. Go ahead, buddy. This is a horrible idea for my first ever scripted video. This video is going to take way longer than I think. And now I'm wasting more time by making this edit of how long it will take. Nah, it won't be that bad.
One eternity later.
This was a mistake!
Well, we better get started then with the F tier. I consider these to be the tracks that are not very fun to drive on or think about.
Disappointed!
The worst track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is pretty hotly debated. People point at Sunset Wilds or Toad Circuit, but my choice is my own personal arch nemesis, Sky High Sundae. I mean, look at this track. Why is everything so vibrant? It clashes really hard against the rest of the game and even the other DLC tracks. The background doesn't fit this theme at all. You're meant to be in the sky, but there's shops, a castle, giant ice cream you drive on, advertisements, and the start line is in a giant fridge. I feel like I'm in the ice cream dimension. Why couldn't they have made this look like Cloudy Climb from Paper Mario 64? That would have made way more sense. The layout does this track no favors as well. It's just a giant oval where you glide straight into a big curve, then a bunch of blind jumps before another big curve and some truck ramps to close us out. It's so incredibly boring, and people still pick it online. Does this track have anything going for it? It's all anti-gravity, that's a start. The change in gravity makes you floatier, which makes the blind jumps more bearable. Too bad this also let them make the railings into anti-gravity boosters instead of changing them into real obstacles like you'd expect. You just clip through them, it's so lazy. Oh, and speaking of lazy, it's not just the railing that are anti-gravity boosters.
What?
So they made every pole in the whole level an anti-gravity booster? Who approved this?
A few miserable streets and an endless desert.
This one hurts me so much. Most people hate Dry Desert because it's a long and boring desert track. I hate it because they massacred my boy! I am Double Dash Dry Desert's lawyer, and ladies and gentlemen, the original version of this track is way better. The obstacles are thematic and interesting, like the tornado near the start, and the pokies that are throughout the level with giant pokies at the end. Also, the sand pit had some real pull, and if you fell in, a monster plant would eat you whole. Where are all those fun elements now?
Gone. Reduced to atoms.
It feels like the soul has been sucked out of this track. There's literally only 3 pokies in the whole track, no tornado, they destroyed the pokie breeding grounds, no monster plant, and the pit has no suck. What does that leave us with in this track?
Nothing!
Nothing besides an oasis on dry desert.
I watch Asian cartoons. I'm a weeaboo.
The city tracks in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe are generally lambasted across the board for being pretty boring. I mean, they can't be that bad. It's not like they made a city track with like 2 interesting enemies and no other obstacles or interesting sections.
Oh my goodness!
How did the Japanese company make Tokyo the most uninspired city track? I can't remember anything about this track after playing it except for the 2 thwomps on the main road and the 2 on lap 3. That and the single intended shortcut you can take on laps 1 and 2. You could have had Mario enemies running back and forth like the busy streets of real Tokyo, or go past a shrine like the statues in Rome Avanti, or heck, maybe go by the famous Nintendo store that's in Tokyo. You can have simple tracks, but they need to be interesting tracks. Sunshine Airport is a great example of this. The layout is simple, but there are enough interesting elements to keep the race engaging. Be better, Japan.
No stairway. Denied.
Look how they massacred everyone else's boy. Why are the colors all messed up? Sky Garden used to look beautiful with the mint green stones and the off-white clouds. Now it's just generic brick and sanitized white clouds. It feels lifeless. The track layout took a huge hit too. They cut a huge portion of the track out and smoothed out the sharper turns, leaving this course short and sad. At least they added some new shortcuts. Leaf shortcut is fine enough. It adds an extra trick opportunity, which is welcome. And the mushroom shortcut at the end is basically necessary, lest you get passed right at the last moment. This comes at the cost of the shortcuts that were in the original track. The giant leaps you could take to skip massive sections of the track are gone, and while I understand it would make this track really unfair for everyone else, consider the following.
It would be funny!
This is a pretty sad attempt at probably the best track on the GBA. Speaking of sad attempts at the best tracks on the GBA,
Lack of...
yet another Super Circuit track that got the of mice and men treatment from Nintendo. I'm shocked by how bad Sunset Wilds turned out. The biggest thing is that the sun on Sunset Wilds doesn't set. It sets in the GBA version, and it sets in the Tour version, but they couldn't bother to do it here. They also cut a huge portion of the track out and smoothed out the sharper turns, leaving the course short and sad. It's interesting looking at Sky Garden and Sunset Wilds next to each other because you notice that these two got really similar treatment but in opposite ways. Sky Garden looks and plays nothing like the original, but in a vacuum, it's not all that bad of a track. Maybe a little boring, but nothing outrageous. Sunset Wilds, on the other hand, looks exactly like how I would imagine it in 3D, but they took out its only real defining feature, and playing it is not very fun at all. There's lots of off-road, so mushroom shortcuts are everywhere, and there's 2 hills at the end, but that's all the life this track has. A corpse and a plasticine recreation. What a sad existence for these 2 beloved tracks.
Only the most sophisticated gaming experience ever created by Yoshi.
Yoshi Valley is one of those tracks where people say, look at all the alternate paths, or look at all the alternate paths, and I'm firmly on the negative, obviously. There's so many alternate paths that don't matter because there's only 2 paths you should be taking at any time. The fastest path is to turn left and then go on the bridge on your left. It's really easy to take this path unless other people are also trying to take it as well. If that's the case though, just take the road right next to the bridge instead. The original version of Yoshi Valley on the N64 made this shortcut way harder, not only by making everything look the same, but also by adding porcupines across the track. Porcupines which are missing on the retro here. The other path you would reasonably take is the tunnel, by going left, then right, then left, specifically to gather coins. But after you have your coins, you'd return to the standard of taking the bridge. And there lies the problem with the track. Why have so many paths if they are without fail slower? Why would I go through the canon path if it leaves me far behind the optimal path? I'm not gonna bother. Also, the ramp at the end, this ramp, don't take it. It's a trap. You can just mushroom through the grass here on the left. So they have another path that's superior to everything else. Yoshi deserves so much better.
Hey, Ari, where'd you learn to drive?
I'm disappointed in you, Toad's Turnpike. They took one of the coolest tracks from Mario Kart 64 and made it boring. If I had a nickel for every time the original track had cramped traffic, so you had to weave between cars and trucks to stay ahead, and when you finally unlock mirror mode, the traffic changes direction, now coming at you, making the traffic even harder. The track layout is very simple to compensate for this. If it was a crazy road as well, it would be too much. I fully understand that the original is too hard, CPU players ignoring the cars, gaps you can't make it through, but these are problems that a remake could have fixed. And did Mario Kart 8 do any of that?
Barely.
The road is now super wide, making weaving between the cars a breeze. Mirror mode doesn't change the direction of the cars, and they added anti-gravity to the walls to make it even easier to avoid traffic in the traffic course. And because their layout is so simple, it now backfires and makes the race a slog to get through. The glider cars are a cool addition, and you can fly above the earlier part of the track, but what does that matter if it's so easy to drive around the track regardless? Shell Cup is where it should have always been. When you add a retro track to a new Mario Kart, you want to keep it roughly within a few spots of its original placement. Example, Yoshi Valley is in the middle of the 4th cup on the N64, so it's at the end of the 3rd retro cup in 8. Toad's Turnpike is the 1st track in the 2nd cup on N64, and the last track on the 1st retro cup in 8. So they got the placement correct. And in moving it to 8, you fix one of the 2 problems from the N64 version, which is the insane AI. And the other problem of the traffic being really tight has already been fixed in this very retro, the glider cars. If you left it with tight traffic like the original and add glider cars so you don't have to thread the needle, this would be a perfect retro. They had everything at their disposal to make this a banger retro, and they fumbled the bag.
We were so close!
You're old.
They really thought bringing back Mario Circuit 3 for a 5th time was a good idea, as of 2022. By all means, this is not a bad track at all. It's just a very old track that needed some tender loving care before being put here, but it didn't get any. What it needed was to be updated and made prettier like Donut Plains 3, or the layout needed to be tweaked a little to make it stand out like GBA Riverside Park and its cave section. But of course, Nintendo decided to toss it in here without any major updates, making it stick out like a sore thumb. And that's all for F tier. Now let's move on to D tier, which are all the below average courses. Not the best, not the worst.
Nobody likes you, Booster.
The poster child for complaining about the booster course paths. If you look beyond that fact though, Toad Circuit is a pretty good track. Being the first track in Mario Kart 7, it fills its role really well. The turns are nice and big to let you get used to the controls. There's a glider that only appears after the second and third lap, so you can get used to the driving before anything weird happens. And there's a mushroom shortcut about halfway through the track. But this isn't Mario Kart 7, this is Mario Kart 8, and we have a track that does that already. It's called Mario Kart Stadium. So why did this track get added over something else, like, as an example, 3DS Daisy Hills? That's another beginner track that looks good on tour and doesn't overlap with the thesis of another track. I think this track just so happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Nothing!
At my water park,
Water Park is the token underwater driving display in this game, and it's very underwhelming for its concept. You have the hallmarks of an amusement park, the big flashy entryway, the anti-gravity roller coaster, a merry-go-round, and a Ferris wheel, but there's nothing that tells me this is a water park aside from the name and all the water somebody left here. I understand it's an amusement park themed around water, but they could have easily made this more interesting. Why didn't they make it a big flooded water slide instead? Use the zero gravity to make a tube slide like in this level of F-Zero GX except for underwater. Have rushing water at the bottom for speed like in Big Blue, and maybe have a split path near the halfway mark. Make the last section of the lap going back around and upstairs for another go like when you're a kid, or make the end a toilet bowl ride like Airship Fortress, or anything else. How does it play though? Maybe the theming is just bad. Boring as sin? That sounds about right. The only real obstacle that can hit you is the submarine cars, and they just boost you instead, so there's literally no challenge, even for a Mushroom Cup course. They took such a cool idea and did nothing with it. Lame.
That's it? That's the track? That was just
An oval.
Despite being extremely divisive, there is only one correct opinion. Double Dash has the only good version of Baby Park. Even though you have 4 extra players to contend with, this version of the track fails to live up to the chaotic heights of the original. They made the track smaller, which encourages bumping into people, but it's anti-gravity the whole time, so it only gives you a boost instead of knocking you around. And why can't items pass over the barrier and hit people on the other side? Having to keep your head on a swivel so you don't get beamed from the other side of the track made Double Dash Baby Park way more engaging. The items in this game are not conducive to the chaotic theme of the track either. Double Dash had insane items and item balancing. Where are my giant bananas, giant shells, and chain chomps? The only real good changes are the tiny grass shortcuts on the ends of the track, and the music is now way better than the original, getting faster and more frantic as the race goes on. But the race just goes on, and 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 on.
I'm gonna deck your halls, bub.
Ho ho ho, Merry Mountain is amazing to look at. There's so many colors and lights, and the snow is white. It's a gorgeous track aesthetically. You drive through the main street of a small Christmas village while a train drives through the air, throwing coins down at you. You have the choice of either the main road to the mountain, or you can take the thinner railway that has more coins and some trick ramps. I have no more nice things to say about Merry Mountain. The path up the mountain has no obstacles to speak of and only a few easy turns before the top. At the top, there is a half pipe that only exists to trick you into wasting time grabbing an item. There's no reason to use it when there are items right along the best path. The drive back down the mountain is equally boring, with nothing on it except for a few anti-gravity boosters. But wait, there's a glider at the end of the slope that only appears after the first lap because it would be too complicated with it there on lap 1. Toad Circuit can do this because it's the first track in Mario Kart 7. This is the 61st track in Mario Kart 8. I really wish this track was better, and I wish that all the people who do like it have a good day.
What's up with him? He's being British today.
Gray, drab, foggy, every building is the same brown. Yep, that's London.
Wow.
But in all seriousness, this track is really bland. There's a few chain chomps that are barely a threat until they break free on lap 3, which is pretty cool, but that's it. Every part of this track is road. No fun jumps beyond blind bridge jumps, no crazy shortcuts, just back and forth driving through town. I have very little to say about this one. Except for the music. Why does this song absolutely rip? And the track itself rips its pants.
Wow. Los Angeles.
Welcome to Los Santos Scamper. Wait, no. Welcome to Los Angeles Laps. It is a track in this game. This track doesn't do anything especially bad, it just feels like they didn't know what they wanted out of this track. It does have a few good icons, but a few bad as well. The beach is a great representation of the California coast. You start on a pier, go under a lifeguard station, and past a concrete skate park, as well as over a baseball stadium that you never actually go into, but why the oil fields? I fully understand that there are oil fields in LA, but why for Mario Kart? Why couldn't we have driven through the baseball field? Other city tracks let you drive through their sports stadiums, why not this one? Or make this a section track so you could drive up to the Hollywood sign, or make it a traffic course. I just wish they had done more with this city. Right now it just feels very forgettable.
Sydney.
Shane Sprint is a very good track because the music is very good. The opera house is very cool, and the music is the best part. Show me S tier. Oh, he ruined my take. Excuse me. I need you to stop snoring. It's ruining my record. Ow.
I got so bored thinking about Sydney Sprint that I fell asleep and... Who are you and how did you get in my house?
I've been discovered, gone but not forgotten.
This track is shockingly popular among the players of this game, and I really don't get it. Yeah, the music is good, but that's not what makes a really good track. It's the layout and the environment, and this track is boring and repetitive. You drive through an amusement park multiple times, over the bridge multiple times, and you drive through the Opera Sydney House twice. My problem is that there's almost no change between these visits, besides being able to trick on the bridge on round 2, and because most of this is road, it all feels the same. Good city tracks let you drive through unique areas each lap, like Amsterdam Drift, or revisit old areas in new ways, like Roma Vanti's Coliseum. The rest of the track is just flat ground with no enemies or obstacles. At the very least, the literal turns are fun when you slalom next to the ocean, and tricking on the bridge is honest good fun. But when you want the track to be over by the end of the second lap, you really need to rethink what you're doing.
There's a structure.
In Antarctica.
Okay, Nintendo, it's 2014 and you're making the DLC for the newest Mario Kart, and the idea is really creative. An Antarctic outpost for researching stuff. We could have literally anything. You could have ice bros throwing snowballs to lean into the ice, or you could drive through the outpost and see the research being done, a la Mount Wario and the dam, or ice on the stage. What the heck is this, Nintendo? Why couldn't they have done anything more with Ice Outpost? You could have had an ice cave with fossils in the walls, or a laboratory, or go under the freezing water, but instead we have this thing. The track is comprised of 2 lanes that split and move around each other without any obstacles to speak of. They could have made the turns fun, but instead there's like 3 turns to speak of, and they're all huge sweeping turns with little to no chance of falling off if you're going down the main path. But if you aren't, there are a few really cool shortcuts that are actually kind of hard to take if you don't know the proper angles. I don't, and it makes the track more dynamic and gives you a nice risk-reward system for trying to catch up. People always mention the music, and while it is very good, it's not enough. Ice Outpost just doesn't reach its full potential, and it's really sad to see.
Of course you mean.
Bangkok.
Bangkok Rush is another very forgettable tour city course. Like, name 2 things about the track that aren't the Democracy Monument and the boats at the start. The sidesteppers, the fruit stand, and the parking garage? That's fair. I left the bar too low. I have basically nothing to say about this track. You drive through the SkyTrain area on every lap, but there's nothing there to be of any interest. There are piranha buds, but in the tour version you had inky piranha plants during this part, which would have added a unique enemy to this track that no other track has. If you haven't noticed by now, I find most of the city tracks underwhelming. It's just City Road, notable landmark. City Road, notable landmark. City Road, notable landmark. I wish every city track had something that no other track had. Berlin is the only track in the series up until this point that featured womps. Again, Bangkok had inky piranha plants and they got removed. Why? There are good city tracks, don't get me wrong, but the ones that are good are really good, and the ones that are bad are down here. Rock Mountain is a good track that is brought down by being a retro. It's the track that shows off the glider mechanic in Mario Kart 7, much like Water Park for the underwater driving in this game. The problem with this is that Mario Kart 7 gliding was way better. It was more free and less restrictive than Mario Kart 8, so when the track is about 50% gliding, that becomes an issue. The rest of the track is okay. The colors look really bad in this version, but the final climb up the mountain is awesome, having boulders come down like Death Mountain, and the music is one of the best to ever do it. But it's not enough to make up for the rest of the track. Sweet liberty! New York Minute is really nothing special. It has the nighttime with neon lights that I love so dearly, and the advertisements and flags at the start give off the vibe of New York, which I do like though. You visit Central Park, the small one from Las Vegas, and track back into the city where the biggest problem lies. This track does the Mushroom City thing, where you have two separate paths you can take, but the few cars here don't move, so there's no reason to have this path split. The left path has a glider with a car to land on and overflowing sewers you can trick off, so why not take that path? From there you return to the same spots again until you hit the parking garage and make a big turn to the end. Why didn't they make this a section track? You could have started in Central Park, driven to New Times Square, gone up the Empire State Building, out of a window, and then glide to Liberty Island and end at the Statue of Liberty. Where is the Statue of Liberty anyway? Oh, it's in a window at a distance. That's the most famous American icon relegated to an Easter egg.
Oh, that's real nice.
Apparently some crazy fan ran El Diablo off the road at the classic bike show and he injured his shoulder.
Excite Bike Arena is very polarizing. You either love this track and will fight anyone who dares sully the good name of randomized hills, or you hate it for being repetitive, and I am very much part of the latter group. The big gimmick with this track is that the bumps are random every time you play it. That's it. And while I like the idea, every time you play it, the track still feels the exact same. So the future will not be randomly generated. I will give it this, it is a very well done crossover. Excite Bike Arena on the NES was a really simple game to pull from, and they pulled everything they could, which was not much.
I stared at the Berlin Wall.
Berlin Byways is the best of the worst tour city courses, being at the top of the 6 in D tier. This track feels the same as the rest aesthetically, with city roads being the majority of its gameplay, but this one is different for having traffic. Yep, Berlin is the only city to have traffic. I mentioned in my LA Laps section that it should have traffic, as well as New York, come to think of it. New York has 8 million people and LA has 4 million. Berlin also has 4 million people, so they should have either given traffic to both Berlin and LA to make them both stand out a little more, or just have given traffic to New York. I'm rambling, let's just move on. Berlin does have stuff that makes it stand out from the others beyond traffic though, with its insanely good music. I really like the tram you can drive into for a double item box near the start, and the womps that make up a portion of the Berlin Wall and fall like the wall did, which is great theming. I wish this track had more interest though. It could have been one of the greats.
What's that? It's called
The Mobius Strip.
Apparently they made Mario Circuit into a Mobius strip because it looks like an 8. Yeah, I can see it. This track wants to show off the anti-gravity, but when you're driving, you look at the road, not the upside down castle on your right, so it doesn't do a great job of that. It's also incredibly forgettable. I actually forgot to take notes the first time I played this for footage. In my defense though, it was really late recording and I was falling asleep at my desk. There is a mushroom shortcut you can take at the end, and while drifting this track can be satisfying, it's not all that great. You can take the turns with no resistance except for a couple Goombas and a couple Piranha Plants. You just fly around the turns, get an Ultra Mini Turbo, drive straight to the next turn, get an Ultra Mini Turbo, drive to the next turn. It's scanning groceries, the track. It's not offensive by any means, but it's not amazing either.
It's radical!
If you give a good look to the tracks in base game Mario Kart 8, you'll notice that there are no half pipes in any of the tracks. Mario Kart Wii was full of these, but they didn't return. So what do you do if you, I don't know, bring back a fan favorite Wii track with a whole gimmick as half pipes? You make janky half pipes using anti-gravity panels.
You don't say.
Yeah, I don't think this works very well. DK Summit is one of the best tracks on the Wii, but the Booster Course Pass did it really dirty. The cannon launch feels slower and less energetic than Wii. The bumps after the ramp are bigger in this version, but they don't send you near as far or as high. And the half pipe at the bottom, which used to feel like a fun stunt section, now works better and makes you faster if you hug the right side and trick into the panel instead of away. Making the cannon launch a glider makes sense, and I think it comes down to a physics thing for the bumps, but the new half pipes can work. Waluigi Stadium came out in the same wave, and while the half pipes are still janky, you can use them to boost up to higher sections of the track or avoid them altogether with no penalty. DK Summit, on the other hand, you still have to use the half pipes because of the deep snow. Or just use a mushroom. The layout of this course is still fun. This is still a well-designed track, but it was not designed with this game in mind.
How would you describe
Calamari Desert.
Below par.
said it was a 10.
I'm sorry to say, but I don't have the train version of the autism. I have the dinosaur version.
You don't say.
Calamari Desert is pretty iconic at this point, having been one of the most unique desert tracks in Mario Kart and not being very good regardless. The main selling point of this track is the big train that runs through, but you hardly ever see it. And if you do see it, it forces you to stop lest you get launched, or you can just skirt next to it like it doesn't exist. Or you can get stuck behind it, letting the people who got ahead of it take an even bigger lead. The glider ramps added in the Mario Kart 7 version of this track come back, so you can try and avoid the train gimmick and fail. Does this track have anything good? Oh yeah, driving through the tunnel. I remember running around in time trials on the 64 driving through here. I really like that they added this new lap of the track to break up the monotony of the straight drive. Driving the track doesn't do anything offensive, and at least the train does make you have to think on your feet for either stopping or trying to rush past. Man, imagine if you could land on the train and it had a glider ramp on top of it, and there were other trains, so it was more of an active hazard. Wishful thinking. Mom, can we get Luigi's Mansion? No, we have Luigi's Mansion at home. Luigi's Mansion at home. Man, I used to really like Twisted Mansion a lot. The theming was atmospheric, the bookshelf shortcut was clever, and I liked the Scooby-Doo possessed armor at the end. But after replaying the level, it feels like an underbaked idea with sprinkles on top. This track feels really bland, besides the aforementioned good bits. Why couldn't they have had more Super Mario World Ghost House inspiration? Having a secret button that unlocks a new pathway would have been awesome. But no, instead we get an underwater section that feels really out of place in a ghost level. Yeah, it breaks up the monotony of the mansion and features the two paths that are different colors and aren't meaningfully different trend, but they could have incorporated this section more naturally. Although I can't fault it too hard for it because it needs to fill the new mechanic quota that every new Mario Kart has. I don't know how you would do that though while making this track more unique. An underwater ghost ship level. That would have been really cool.
Oh, my bad. Easy mistake for me to make because, you know, back in my day, we didn't have
Anti-gravity.
I hope you like Mario Circuit because I got you more Mario Circuit to go with your Mario Circuit. GBA Mario Circuit is a pretty good beginner track, making it good for the shell cup of this game, but I feel like they didn't do enough to make it stand out on its own. DS Mario Circuit is pretty basic, but they added a forest area and a wiggler, which makes it way more distinct. In this track, they raised up a section of the road using an old Nintendo toy called the Ultra Hand and made it anti-gravity, but that's all, no other track alterations. I will say though that the pit stop is a fun detail, and you can drive on top of the blocks near the end using the glider for a shortcut. But the best part is that they use the beta version of the song from Super Circuit. I'm gonna restart the song in the background, just listen to this. Freaking love this song.
Man, I spent hours of my life stomping Koopas.
This is one of the few times that the holdover changes from Mario Kart 7 ended up really hurting a track. Koopa Cape is right there with Coconut Mall and Maple Treeway for being an S-tier Wii track, and while it's still fun here, it didn't return to its prime. The first section is the exact same as the original, with the ramp and the Goombas, but when you jump over the big ramp, you feel an immediate difference. The original version of the rushing water section was a lot wider and a lot longer, giving you the chance to move around and feel less claustrophobic. The new version feels way too narrow and ends way too fast. I don't like it, but it's not the worst thing, but the biggest travesty is the pipe section at the end. We must have a blackout because I don't see any running water and electricity. What the? Ah! Are you serious? In 7, they changed this section to a fully underwater section to coincide with the new underwater driving, but they didn't have to remove the best part of the track, the electric spinners that pair like cheese and wine to the rushing water that force you into the electric spinners lest you waste time not being faster in the water. In the 7 version of this track, they added Cheep Cheeps, so at least there was something here to keep it interesting, but those are gone now. And also, they made this tunnel short too. What the heck? They took all the hard obstacles out, but they left the shell of it here, which is still good, better than a lot of tracks in this game, but not even the bouncing shell sign can save it. Hello? Petrie, can you turn on the backup generator? I think this might have been sabotage. The timing was too perfect. Oh, the power's back. And just in time for the C tier, these tracks are the baseline average of the game. Keep in mind though, the average of this game is pretty high.
I bring the destruction of Olympus!
Of all the city tracks, Athens Dash is the one I had the hardest time finding things to talk about. This is the only city track that isn't in a normal city, instead being in the ruins of Athens, Greece, which is really cool. I love that they changed up the formula, even if I wish they did this more. On lap 1, you start in the Pantheon, drive past a fountain, around an amphitheater, through a tunnel, and back to the Pantheon. Lap 2 is a different path, now going through the Pantheon, past the amphitheater, around the fountain, through the tunnel, and up the stairs back to the Pantheon. You said this was different. The third lap is truly different though. You take a hard left and go past this little town and different ruins, and up this hill with boulders rolling down. While not unique to this track, I'm glad they added them here. Then you round the corner back up the stairs. The only massive problem, besides that lap 1 and 2 do the same thing in different directions, is that you take a high jump and get to see how awful the background town looks. Besides that, I'm really just whelmed. Athens Dash isn't atrocious by any means, but it commits the greatest sin a Mario Kart track can, being mediocre.
Whoa, what a cool mountain!
How did you get here?
Honey, it's time for another okay remake of a Double Dash track. Yes, dear. DK Mountain is one of the best tracks in Double Dash, full stop. You have the first ever cannon in Mario Kart, the volcano has its big angry face, it oozes with that Double Dash charm. The track is also difficult to drive with its narrow roads, wide chasm in the jungle section, really fast boulders, and bouncy physics. The Mario Kart 8 version is way easier by comparison. Like DK Summit before it, they took away the fun, crazy bouncing. The roads are really wide too. I could fit like 7 Diddy Kongs next to each other here. The chasm is skinny and sad, and the boulders are a non-threat with how slow and uncommon they are. There are some good changes though. The volcano face is updated and looks amazing, and they made the bridge wavy and trickable, which is fun, and you can still do the gap jump, but at least they didn't remove the most iconic parts of the track. Diddy Kongs.
Am I glad he's frozen in there and that we're out here?
Time for everyone's second most hated Double Dash track. While I think this version of Sherbert Land has undesirable changes, it got away better than Dry Dry Desert did. The biggest improvement is that the freezies no longer freeze you on touch, making you slide out of position. Now they just knock you around like a banana or a shell. The layout stays mostly the same, but they made the icy water a new path. I don't like this part. It takes the challenge out of the icy lake section, so you can't bump people into the lake and make them drown in the cold abyss. Also, if you did want to take the underwater path, it's slower. I guess if you got knocked down here and you have to take the slower path, but you tell me the last time you got bumped off a cliff in Mario Kart 8. The rest of the track is just the same Sherbert Land you all know, but now with a second underwater section in the second frozen lake, which I feel the same about, and with a hidden glider ramp that you need a mushroom to reach, which is pretty cool. They made this version a little easier than the original Sherbert Land, but hey, at least it's not awful now.
That'll teach you to mess with my new little buddy Yoshi!
Another Double Dash track that got worse in Mario Kart 8.
My favorite!
The GameCube version of Yoshi Circuit was one of the best circuit tracks in any of the games, having references to Yoshi's Island and the goofiness of Yoshi with the Easter eggs and shortcuts. There's a Yoshi copter, you can see Daisy Cruiser, a different Double Dash course, off in the distance. There's all kinds of billboards and fun shortcuts too. The best one, you use a mushroom to jump off a cliff and into a hidden tunnel. I wonder how they did that in 8.
Yoshi!
What? Where's the shortcuts?
It feels like they took the silly out of this track. The Yoshi Copter is gone, the Daisy Cruiser is no longer branded, heck, even the small elevation change near the end is gone. The colors are muted too, which makes the track, and me in turn, feel sad. It still plays well, don't get me wrong. It's still challenging to take good turns in some places, and you can still do the waterfall shortcut, but another circuit is not what I wanted. I wanted the silly majesty of Yoshi Circuit. Wait, hang on, is the track shaped like a Yoshi? Guys, I think I'm the first one to notice this. That's so crazy.
Hey, put the donuts down!
Now this is how you make a proper SNES remake. Donut Plains 3 is very faithful to the original track, unlike some other tracks I can think of, and it makes very few changes to bring it to the modern age. The really big change is that you can drive in the water now, allowing for huge shortcuts to be taken, mostly by taking tighter turns through the water, but at the expense of leaving you lacking options later. There are 2 item sets in this track, here and here. If you take the U-turn really tight through the water, you miss out on the other item set. If you did get several mushrooms and take all the shortcuts, you are now out of items, as those are the only 2 item sets in the whole track, and now you're a sitting duck for any red shells or blue shells to destroy you. But that lets you even the playing field if someone is taking the shortcuts. Do you risk it all on a big play and try to cut ahead of everyone, or just take one shortcut and hope for the best? While it does feel like the track is fighting its own logic sometimes, Donut Plains 3 is still a fun time and is exactly what I want to see from my SNES retros. Sweet Sweet Canyon is a shockingly good-looking dessert track. Take note, Sky High Sunday. The style of Mario Kart 8 being very realistic makes this an uphill battle, but they went all the way with this one. The gingerbread crowd watching, the giant cake, the arrows are cookies, the cones are cones.
Nice touch.
Wafer windmills, it's really fun to look around and see how creative the designers got with this track. The only problem with it is the soda. That's not soda. Beyond that, this track is just average. It is in the Mushroom Cup, so it doesn't have to be anything special either. It has a cannon and starts the 2 paths that are different colors and aren't meaningfully different trend among the nitros, and has a traditional hairpin turn with a mushroom cut where you go through a donut. It's too whimsical and silly with its theme to be placed even a single spot lower.
Dragons.
Dragon Driftway is the cooler Mario Circuit. It doesn't have the obstacles of Mario Circuit, but it's far better designed. The aesthetics are way better, being this Chinese and Kung Fu Lakitu theme, and the road you're driving on is Gobblegut, the first major boss of Super Mario Galaxy 2, which is a stroke of genius. The road itself is less flat and has a few ramps and bumps to trick off, and there are grass shortcuts so you can pass your opponents with a little more ease. I just wish they added some obstacles to avoid, like crystals or bite holes to reference the Gobblegut fight. It does have the same problem as Mario Circuit though, where you're looking at your character and not the start of the track above you. But overall, a very solid track.
Hamster.
Amsterdam Drift is a good city track that really deserves better. This is one of the most varied city courses in the game. You start by driving around the corner and flying to a field with windmills in the background, then back into town to drive into a canal that's full of currents that move you and boats you can jump onto. The town road has a couple trams that drive alongside you, and after you return to the waters once more, you jump out and drive through a field of, frankly, huge tulips. So if I'm saying this track is quite good, why is it this low? Well, that's because people kept picking it online, and now I'm tired of playing it. That's all. My notes on this track were really negative, but going back, this track deserves way better than I'm giving it here.
Dude, those animals are so funny, they make me want to merge without looking!
You know when you're a kid on a road trip at night and you can't look out the window because it's dark, and then you finally see lights in the distance and you get to look out at the nighttime city around you? That's what Moonview Highway feels like. You drive down a cliff edge highway, avoiding traffic as you go, until you pass a toll booth and enter the city. Boost pads everywhere, encouraging you to change lanes constantly to hit them, like you're in real traffic. The problem is that the city section feels really slow. In Wii, it feels like you're going 85 in a 55. While in this version, you're going the speed limit no matter what. They also cut the amount of cars significantly. The cliff section worked because you could stay in the inside lane at the cost of maybe getting run over, or you could stay in the outside lane, slower but you can see oncoming traffic. Now with less cars, you can take the best line no matter what, so it does take some of the intrigue out of the track. Although, it does fix the biggest issue with the original Moonview, that being that the difficulty is front-loaded. The cliff is by far the hardest section, and the city being so open and easy makes it feel weird to play the track. In 8 though, the whole track is easier, evening the difficulty, but that doesn't save this one from just being okay.
I love gold!
Wario's Gold Mine got quite a few changes between this version and the original. The biggest offender is the giant dip. Why is this a regular anti-gravity turn now? Where's my giant dip before the big jump? They should have changed the name of this track to Baby Wario's Gold Mine because they bubble wrapped all the hardest parts. The minecarts used to be engaging, but kinda obnoxious, where if you hit them, you get knocked around. Sometimes you'd fall off the edge if you were really unlucky. Now you just get a boost from them, flying way in the opposite direction for difficulty. The threat of the minecart also made the shortcut near the end harder to get into if you timed it wrong. If you could get into the shortcut, you would get away from the chaos, grab an item, and get a boost to help you catch up. A great risk-reward system. Now the shortcut is slower, and you don't have to worry about your timing because, again, the minecarts don't hurt you. Despite everything, it's still Wario's Gold Mine, so it's still fun. You still have the big dip at the start, and you still have reason to use the secret tunnel, as there are now coins there, and you still get away from the chaos. Also, the Wii version is unnecessarily brutal, so it needed to be made easier regardless. I still like it, but it doesn't meet its highs here.
Chocolate. I remember when they first invented chocolate.
Finally, a good N64 retro. Choco Mountain looks so good in this game. The foggy mountain setting is atmospheric, and they expanded on the cave, adding these nice blue crystals for some color contrast. They also added a glider over a broken bridge to replace where you could fall off in the N64 version, which is a great nod. The rolling rocks don't do much for me though. Since you can see where they're gonna land and you know they're on a cycle, it's easy to avoid them. I like the N64 version more, as you can see the rocks come down off the cliff, which is a more interesting indicator than the ground cracks. My absolute favorite part of this track though is the music. It's just cowboy music and it's so silly. Not really a track with a lot going on, but it's cool, so it goes here now. It goes in the C tier. 12 years old. The one that starts it all. Mario Kart Stadium is a perfect showing of anti-gravity and a good tutorial for new players. The first hairpin has coins on the wide path, or you can take it tight for better lines. then a mushroom cut on the left before the giant turn. This section showing off the anti-gravity is really well done. First seeing the track ahead at nearly 90 degrees, then driving on it and seeing the fireworks in the sky go off in front of you. Finally, you drive down and hit the glider ramp, soaring into the air and touching down right around the corner from the start. I also really love the stadium setting. No other starter track has done anything like this, so it really sets this one apart. A visually interesting starting track that does its job and doesn't step on another track's toes. Great job, Nintendo. Also, I started working on this video in 2024, and I was picking the segment intros, and this one for Mario Kart Stadium was supposed to be 10 years old from, I think, the Phantom of the Opera Broadway. 10 years old. Then I took too long writing my script, and the anniversary of Mario Kart 8, May 29th, 2025, came and went, so I changed it to 11 years old. 11 years old. Then I took even longer to finish the video, so now I'm recording this on February 24th, and I figured if I'm gonna finish this video within 3 months of the 12-year anniversary, I might as well make it 12 years old, which is what you hear at the start of the segment. 12 years old! Just thought it was interesting. Back to the actual ranking. Man, I really wish I liked TikTok Clock more. Believe me, I'm mad at myself too. The glow up this track got is unheard of. This version makes the DS original feel like an unfinished test version. Making the hand of the different clocks in the level trickable was a great way to add interactivity to an otherwise pretty straightforward course. But it's still a straightforward course. The simple track design feels much better for DS's driving system, but not as much for Mario Kart 8's smoother and easier to control driving and drifting. The pendulums echo this easier design by not being very threatening. The old pendulums would send you up like a shell, but the new ones are just walls you smack into when you misjudge your lines. The gear section of the original was really well done because if you don't have a mushroom or another speed item, you need to be going the direction the gears are turning, or else you are slower than molasses on a cold day. In the new version though, the gear's rotation affects you so little that you can just drive anywhere or take the glider ramp that lets you skip the obstacle altogether. They also added these arrows to tell you which direction the gears are turning, which I like if you have a hard time seeing the gear's rotation, but it would have been more impactful if they were still a real hazard like on the DS. Overall, it's a great remake, but I think they changed too much in the glow up.
Wiggler Wednesday is real! Yay!
I feel like DS Mario Circuit got way too much hate when it came out for the Booster Course Pass. I mean, yeah, it's the 4th Mario Circuit, but I would also say it's the best one in the game. You get some visual variety with the fields at the start, the forest halfway through, and you get to jump out and get a beautiful shot of the castle. There's also multiple different kinds of obstacles to dodge, with Goombas in the road, the piranha plant shooting fire at you, and during the forest section, there's a sleeping Wiggler off to the side on laps 1 and 2.
That's a surprise later.
But on lap 3, that Wiggler wakes up and takes a stroll down the road to go to the local 7-Eleven and get an extra large Big Gulp, or maybe some corn nuts. Everyone kept saying that it should have been Airship Fortress for this spot, but now we have Airship Fortress in the game where you only do 1 lap for each track.
Wait a minute.
Cheese for everyone!
Nintendo has a weird relationship with Super Circuit. They either make the most faithful recreation of the track with minor tweaks that improve on it, like giving Boo Lake a lake, or they give it the of mice and men treatment. Cheeseland shows the secret third option, complete overhaul. They ditched the moon theme, which really sucks because the moon being cheese was a really funny gag, but now it's a desert, so... And before you say anything, yes, it is a desert. There are cactuses. The cheese rocks you can drive through and the pizza table rocks in the background are great additions to drive the theme home. They also added this chain chomp for no real reason. So what's the catch? The catch is that this track is very easily cheesed. For those who don't know, sandbagging, or bagging for short, is a strategy where you purposefully stay behind in a low placement to get great items, like a bullet bill or lightning for a big comeback. And this track is the king of ridiculous comebacks. In this clip, I purposefully stayed back until first place was about halfway through the track for this example. Use my bullet bill on this off-road because it doesn't want to drop you off on a corner, also called a bullet bill extension, and I get carried to second place and I still have triple mushrooms. It doesn't matter how far back you are, as long as you have a bullet bill or golden mushroom, you can always steal the top spot. This lets you, I don't know, stay at the start for a full lap and wait for a great item set. Then when you see first place past the start line for lap 2, book it down the track, abusing the numerous shortcuts. Next, on your lap 2, use a bullet bill on the off-road for the extension to catch back up with everybody else with a low place item in your item slot. Finally, abuse more shortcuts to take first place and drive normally to the end of the track, winning everything. If you don't bag and you play this track normally, it's still really solid, but it's not a track for me.
Who called me cheap? I'll pay $300.
This placement is 100% biased. On one hand, Cheap Cheap Beach is not all that great of a track. On the other hand, the Overwater Bungalow reminds me of vacations in Hawaii with my family. The beach section was made easier by the fact that you can drive through the water, making the sand part redundant, unless you want more coins. If you have coins though, you can just drive straight forward through the water, which is boring. The jungle section is a great theme change, and with the dock, adds variance to the track that makes it feel longer in a good way. I need to make special mention of the theming too. The start line being a volleyball net and the aforementioned bungalows combined with the dock really drive home the vacation vibe, and the music is so cozy in a summery kind of way. Every person has that track theme that they love more than any other. For some, it's the frosty snow levels, others the dusty desert levels. What am I saying? No one likes the desert theme but me. I think I'm partial to beaches, having grown up on the coast, and this track is a great representation of that bias.
It's called a road, it's called a rainbow road.
Man, I can't believe it took us till, what, number 53 for a Rainbow Road? Crazy. There is one word to describe N64 Rainbow Road: aesthetic. They took the original track and fixed almost every one of its issues, including making it shorter by making it a 3-lap section track instead of a 6-minute gauntlet, and they added boost rings and a train throwing coins so you have something to aim for while you drive. They changed the chain chomps so now they bounce and make shockwaves to trick off, and they kept the best part, the fireworks of the characters in the sky. But it still has issues, like how short it is now. They took one lap of the N64 version and made it the whole race. While the original was nearly 6 minutes, this version is like a minute and a half. And since the chain chomps don't barrel at you down the track, all you do is just giant wide turns back and forth with occasional rings to drive into. While it is an improvement over the original, it's still pretty dull to drive. But just like the original, it's going for form over function. It's a celebration of a level, rather than a difficult final challenge like other Rainbow Roads are. It's the last track in the base game for a reason. And while I do like it, while it is a good track, it's still the worst Rainbow Road in the game. Up next is the start of the B tier. These are the above average courses that inspire joy in me that I actively want to return to.
Hey, I've been turned into a cow. Can I go home?
Moo Moo Meadows is the perfect start to the Shell Cup. It's simple and elegant with the cows that walk on the track more with each passing lap. Compared to its original version on Wii, the sunset looks so much better than the blue sky. With the glider they added too, I would say this is the best version of this track. But after playing it for 11 years, I think I'm ready for something new. Don't mention it.
Drops of rain frozen into ice crystals.
Snowland is a very faithful GBA remake, aside from the lack of migraine-inducing earthquakes. The item boxes near the start and on the icy lake move, which is a strange idea that I think really works to give a little memorability to the course. The penguins are a good obstacle for the icy lake section too, and the jump at the end is good for stealing wins. The track is very simple, but I like it the way it is.
Oh, banana.
When Mario Kart 7 was being developed, they didn't have enough developers because they were still making The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, so they asked Retro Studios to help make tracks for the game. One of the tracks that was done by Retro was DK Jungle, based on the first world in Donkey Kong Country Returns. This track is very similar to Rosalina's Ice World in that it's full of on-the-side references to Donkey Kong, where you can point and go, I recognize that! Donkey Kong's house, the Tiki Tak tribe, the Golden Banana Temple. I do wish that these references were better incorporated into the track design rather than just being pog fodder. Driving the track is great fun though. The jungle is pretty narrow to drift around, with tikis in some areas and frogs in others. You get to bounce on a giant flower, and there's this fallen pillar that appears to need a mushroom, but no, you can just drive over the grass and glide anyway. They also made the Golden Banana Temple anti-gravity, which makes it feel a little magical. I will say I don't like the approach as much though. They made the platform's angles less extreme in this version. They also moved the screaming pillars at the end, which wasn't really a big hazard regardless, but it makes it feel less compelling. It's overall a really good track that just feels a little rushed, but it is the perfect track for people who want DK to only have jungle tracks and mountain tracks. But seriously, what's up with that? How come we couldn't have a different theme for this track? I mean, you could have had the cliff world be the theme, have crumbling edges like in Grumble Volcano, or the cave world and have minecarts driving around. I like what they did with this track, but I want something new for DK. Thank you to Mario Kart World for breaking that curse. Now we need a new track for modern DK rather than retro DK.
That's not the worst part. Half the forest is gone.
Of all the tracks in Mario Kart 8, Peach Gardens is a top contender for the most beautiful. I want to go on a walk here with my wife. The area with the chain chomps now has giant hedges cut into the shape of several characters, and they brought back the backwards lap that got cut from the DS version. And, because you go backwards, they added a glider section that lets you high-five Luigi. So why is this only B tier? That's because they made this track easier in a really annoying way. They changed the flower patches on the corners so you can easily drift past instead of having to take the difficult inner path or the slower and easier outer path. They also moved the item boxes in the Chain Chomp section. On the DS and Wii, the boxes follow the Chain Chomps, making it harder to get an item to cut through the grass ahead. Now it's off to the sides where anyone can grab one. And they took most of the hedges out of this section, so it's easier to drive and less compelling because you can see the Chain Chomps from around corners, a luxury not in the other versions.
But I'm not done yet!
Remember the glider I mentioned earlier? It takes you right over the Chain Chomp section for lap 3. Also, because you clip right through the hedges, it's a straight line to the next turn. Peach Gardens is a great track, one that I love in its other versions, and while it still stands up here, it's not as great as it once was. Okay, we're at the halfway point. We're gonna have a quick intermission to let y'all go to the bathroom and to give me a quick break. Battle mode? Who cares about battle mode? This is break time. Okay, Woohoo Town and Luigi's Mansion are the best, and I'm a huge Splatoon fan, so I like Urchin Underpass, but I don't play the battle mode in 8 Deluxe. Of all the city tracks, my favorite ones are the ones where you drive through the landmark, and Rome Avanti is one of the best. The first lap starts you by driving through the outer ring of the Colosseum before starting the city part of the city track. You next drive around this fountain, and there are rocky wrenches. I love rocky wrenches. When you drive over them, you can trick off of them like a personal ramp. Then lap 2 takes you through a unique section through the middle of the city and passes the Temple of Esculapius during a hairpin turn. Lap 3 takes you past the Trevi Fountain and back through the Colosseum, chomps biting at the sides where you want to trick but you can get hit if you aren't careful. Finally, you return to the Lap 1 fountain, a glider ramp spawns, and there are fuzzies. I love fuzzies! This is the only Mario Kart 8 track to feature fuzzies too. The layout is fun, driving through the Colosseum is a great way to incorporate it into the track, and I really like the atmosphere of the night. Did you guys see some weird glitching during this section? They seem to be more common near the Colosseum. Let me go check that out.
これは試練だ。過去に打ち勝てという試練と俺は受け取った。
人の成長、未熟な過去に打ち勝つことだとな。お前もそうだろ、ジャンピエール・ポルナレフ。
貴様は
ディアボロ。
I guess we could try to make the world see the good side of Bone Dry.
Man, people really hate Bone Dry Dunes. I don't think I've seen a tier list with it higher than number 70 at best, but I feel like it deserves so much better. This is the best looking desert track in the game, with the giant bones that you ride past and on, the giant Bowser Skull cave entrance that is amazing and one of my favorite set pieces in this whole game, and the red sand and sky really sells this track for me. The track itself isn't amazing, but it's not bad. The first section has a boat with toads in it that will throw coins down at you, and it switches sides mid-race, so you have reason to go down both sides of the road, or just take the middle ramp if you have a mushroom. The sand here is slick and makes the tight turns of the next section especially difficult. And here we get to the part everybody mentions when discussing this track, the split path. You can either take the right anti-gravity path that has no enemies, speed boosters, and a shorter path, or the longer, bone piranha-filled left path. People will say you should always take the right path, but I'm here to be a lawyer once more and tell you that there's more to this. If you look ahead, there's an upper road and a lower road, and it's really hard to make it to the upper road even if you use a mushroom. But if you take the left path and hit this sand geyser, you launch upward and can take that upper road. Sure, you could also do this from the right bone path, but it takes several mushrooms and good timing, and the double items on the left path line you up perfectly with the geyser, so you're more prepared after the shortcut. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. The ending is nothing special, just with a couple dry bones and a mushroom cut before the end. I'm not about to say Bone Dry Dunes is perfect. The track is short and the middle kind of feels barren, but it deserves way more respect. You know when you have a movie that has a scene in a nightclub and the music is bassy and the lights are flashing? Electrodrome is the Mario Kart version of that, and it sells the concept beautifully. The music is so good that if you try not to bop along, you will end up hurting yourself. You know it's good, I just don't feel like grooving.
Music-themed levels are not all that common compared to something like desert or snow levels, but I'm glad that the two we have in this game are both bangers. Hospital.
Oh, what happened?
This video better do well. The hospital bills are gonna be wild. The club aesthetic is very unique as well. There's a big screen showing off the DJ with the mosh pit, there's giant speakers, and the piranha plants and pipes have unique skins. As you take the first turn, you will probably notice the wall to your right, and you turn to drive on that wall. Then you approach another set of two paths that are different colors and aren't meaningfully different. The big turn before the final glider lights up and makes sound when you land on each step, which is a nice detail. Basically, all of this track's charm comes from its theme and music. Electrodrome is mostly form over function, but it still functions just fine. Yay, you're back!
Yeah, the hospital let me go early if I take it easy.
Okay, cool. Have you heard any weird noises in the house?
I need to hire an exterminator, or I need to get a restraining order.
Man, I wish Canada was real.
Vancouver Velocity is one of the best city tracks in the game. Instead of starting on regular city road, you instead drive under the 2010 Winter Olympics cauldron. Why is this thing called that? And into Vancouver Park, with a sign, complete with a suspension bridge, with a sign. And what is this thing called? How am I supposed to know what this is? There's no sign. After the whatchamacallit and the bridge, you glide into a beautiful neon city. I am a sucker for neon lights at night. Lap 2 takes you over this dock with boats that reference Mario, Luigi, and Peach, and through this park that puts New York Minute to shame, and this arena that puts LA Laps to shame. Lap 3 is where the track kind of falls apart. This part is just regular, no-interest city road, like Tokyo Blur without thwomps. Then you return to the arena and life is good once more. I really like that they used the Sherbertland Shy Guys here for the ice skating rink. It's a really nice touch. After that, it's back to business as usual for the last few turns of the track. Canada Crossing really peaks at the start and only gets worse as you go, but its lowest low is still better than most other city tracks' highest highs.
Act like an angel, just like
Daisy Circuit is one of those Wii tracks that you see come back and you're like, you're as beautiful as the day I lost you. The colors in the skybox look amazing in this game, and the changes they made feel meaningful as well. The iconic stair shortcut is harder now that there is a plant standee in the way, so you need a mushroom or a shell to get up or else you spin out. They changed the off-road and put a glider ramp and an item box at the top. They also changed the cones so they don't slow you down anymore. I can finally take tight lines without issue. The ending hairpin turn got changed to add boost panels, which feels pretty good to take this corner wide with the panels and zoom by. Lastly, I really like the new statues of Baby Luigi and Baby Daisy that complement the other statues in the plaza. Absolutely a globe from the original.
See, what I gone and did is I gave my map to my pet dog, and that was a horrible mistake for you see dogs. They cannot read.
This is by far and away the best traffic course, in my humble opinion. Everyone says Shroom Ridge has big road trip vibes, and I fully agree with this. The road being right next to the cliff and the tunnel makes me think of driving through the valley near my home. The DS original version of this track had traffic going both directions with less cars, while this one has more cars all driving with you. And while I like this one because more cars means you need to be more mindful of the cars around you, both are very good. They also added a couple shortcuts, with a glider that skips the section adjacent to the open field before the tunnel, and a really cool air gust shortcut right before the end. I really wish that Moonview Highway could live up to this track. Moonview Highway is the only other traffic course in this game, I promise.
Don't tell me. We're about to go over a huge waterfall.
Shy Guy Falls has the best use of anti-gravity in Mario Kart 8, full stop. After you drive past a few tight turns near the start, you jump onto the waterfall and start climbing up it at a 90-degree angle. The water is constantly dragging you backwards, so you need to hit the boost panels to help you up. You then do a U-turn and drive down the second waterfall until you hit a glider back to the cliff you started on. This section reminds me a lot of GBA Mario Circuit, being an anti-gravity U-turn, but it's handled way better here. After the glider, there's an upper and lower path like Bone Dry Dunes, but this one is way easier to get to the upper path, and it lines you up nicely for the following mushroom cut right after, skipping the last few turns. I really like this track, but the waterfall set piece will always steal the show for me.
Nice of the princess to invite us over for a picnic, eh, Luigi?
Royal Raceway is one of the absolute best N64 tracks, and it still really holds up here. The original is pretty notorious for having really demanding turns, where if you mess up, you're going for a tumble. This version is not that demanding, but when you do it all right, you soar through, flying back and forth, getting big drift after big drift, or taking the one ramp in the middle of the course. Why are you the only ramp in this course? Also, I like this drifting track better than the others because the corners are tighter and it's shockingly fast feeling when you drive around these bends. Then, after the iconic big yump and hot air balloons that reference the three major princesses, the track becomes much easier as they changed the really difficult turn at the end, so now it's way shallower. But the worst thing they changed is you can't explore the outside of the castle, but of course you get to drive through the tunnel on Calamari Desert. Why couldn't they have made the outside of the castle part of the track, like the lap change and a lot of other tracks?
Terry, we saw you in the park throwing rocks at the Calamari Tunnel enjoyers.
Why should they be happy?
All this time, I've been underneath Paris.
I feel like the two best tour city tracks are always the same in most people's tier lists, being Singapore and Madrid, but it's what's just below those that's interesting to me, and my bronze medal tour city track is Paris Promenade. A promenade is defined as a place for walking or a leisurely walk, and this track embodies both. The layout is pretty simple, but that's to its benefit, like a casual walk under the Arc de Triomphe or under the Eiffel Tower. You drive past cafes and tall buildings, and after the glider, you get to choose to get an item under the Eiffel Tower or turn left and take a shortcut with no item. You also go backwards on the final lap, like Peach Gardens. While it is very similar to other city tracks like London Loop for not having obstacles on the road, this one is carried by the atmosphere, and I really like the music too. This track isn't the craziest or the flashiest, but it makes me happy to drive on.
For the next song, maybe I can drive into the river!
Riverside Park is another faithful GBA track, but of the faithful, this one added the most to the track. The best thing they added are Patuis that walk around and hold items, and then drop them when hit with an item or with your car. The other awesome thing they changed is the final jump. In Super Circuit, the last jump goes over an earlier section of track, and that's about it. In this new version, you go through a cave and burst out of a waterfall on the other side. Like Mario Circuit and Snowland before it, Riverside Park doesn't need to change a whole lot to make it great. Trust the fungus. Another classic from the Wii, Mushroom Gorge is still a banger. The idea is that you bounce off these mushrooms, and they did a perfect job showing this off like they would a level gimmick in a normal Mario game. You start by being forced to bounce on the first mushroom. Then you get a choice to either jump on the mushrooms in front of you or take the side path and avoid the gimmick of the level. Coward. The final section is the best, where you drive through this gorgeous cave and bounce off a bunch of mushrooms in a row. Mario Kart Wii had 2 paths to go down, while Mario Kart 7 took out the left path and replaced it with a blue glider mushroom. This version keeps both paths. They also brought back the shortcut at the very beginning that got taken out of the 7 version. People also say the mushrooms are less bouncy in this version. I mean, I get it, but we just had bouncier physics. And hey, at least this version's mushrooms don't send you at weird angles. Waluigi Pinball is an S tier. Waluigi Pinball is an S tier. Waluigi Pinball is an S tier. Waluigi Pinball S tier. In all seriousness, Waluigi Pinball has one of the coolest themes in any Mario Kart track. Racing around the inside of a giant pinball machine. Mario Party DS, anyone? If I had a nickel for every time I was stuck in a giant pinball machine on the DS, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happens twice. The colors are bright and arcade-like, and the giant Waluigi staring down at you is kinda hilarious. You start with the best possible idea, getting shot through the plunger's rainbow tunnel to start driving down a pinball track that makes up the majority of the course. This is where I have problems. I think this section is kind of boring. The road is very simple to drive on with lots of back and forth turns, but they did add one of the most thematic elements in Mario Kart, the humble pinball. The pinballs fall on the track and roll with you, trying to run you over when you aren't paying attention. I hit these very rarely though, and if I do, it feels like it came out of nowhere. Otherwise, I feel like they don't exist. The better part of the course, to me, is the table part. Like a real pinball table, this section has bumpers that launch the pinballs, making them more sporadic and harder to dodge. You can either drive down the sides of the table for a less dangerous, slower path, or barrel right down the middle, dodging pinballs and bumpers for a faster path. The pinballs in this section feel much more like an active threat that I need to keep my head on a swivel for. And with the risk-reward of the path choice, makes this section way more compelling. The section ends by entering the gobble hole, and for some unexplained reason, they took out the ball lost sound. I feel like this track was designed with DS driving in mind. The abundance of slaloms that are much harder to take with wiggle drifting and lack of shortcuts are very reminiscent of how DS handled its tracks, but when you port it to a game that has way better handling, easier drifting, and more modern track design, it leaves the track wanting for more. A fan favorite for sure, but I'm just not that fan.
Couldn't get into it.
Explain yourself. What didn't you like about it?
It insists upon itself, Lois.
What?
It insists upon itself.
What does that even mean?
Because it has a valid point to make. It's insistent.
Run! She's like, what the ghost?
Of all the simpler GBA remakes, Boo Lake is my favorite. They remembered the lake this time. I've been wanting a good haunted level, and they delivered. Boo Lake isn't very long, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. They added a few jumps at the start and a split path to help break up the chaos, and then you do a U-turn into the water. There's a mushroom cut right after the dunk that can be pretty tricky to take and keep your speed and angle, and there's a few more bumps to trick off before you burst out of the water and hit the finish line. I love that this track looks like a rickety roller coaster track, or like it's sinking into the water with age. It's a great detail. My only real problem is that the candle boos are gone, but then again, do I know what they did? Nope. I really like the more faithful GBA remakes in this game. Unlike Cheeseland and Ribbon Road, these show off the great track design that Super Circuit brought to the table without any extra fluff, and I think that Super Circuit needs more credit for that.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I 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 need it!
Jim, my boy, soon we'll be off to the sport.
Toad Harbor is a great track to be in the Flower Cup, having many skillful options for veterans while still being very beginner friendly. The first part has a great shortcut where you can either take a jump onto a boat for an item or go around, which is slower but you still get an item, which leads into a market you can drive through, or if you took the boat cut, it lines you up to drive on top of the market instead. There's a small split in the path right after, and you can take the right path for another shortcut, cutting the giant turn, but staying on there can be tricky. The tram section is a stroke of balancing genius. If you don't want to deal with the trams at all, you can drive onto the wall at the cost of it being way slower. If you want a more consistent and slightly faster path, you can turn wide as the trams only drive on the right side of the road. If you want the fastest path, you can drift in between the trams and the wall in this very narrow section with the biggest risk and reward. The hill is the final section where you can hit boosts and pretend a giant truck is chasing you. Overall, a great track with a really fun theme, and is that the Statue of Liberty? How come the San Francisco-inspired track got a prominent Statue of Liberty, and the actual New York track gets—
Hey, is that one purple? Purple is my favorite color!
Of the two Waluigi tracks in this game, I like Stadium a little more than I like Pinball. They cooked with how this track looks. The Stadium having a purple undertone to its colors looks way better than the orange light from the GameCube or the Wii versions of this track. The layout is also really good, with small dirt bumps to drive over and big jumps through fire that make you feel like you're a BMX driver. The turns are tight and satisfying if you drift properly, and punishing if you don't. This track is really slick.
Why does trying to stay on the track feel like pushing a greased oyster on a warped slip and slide?
If you get a boost, you need to drift immediately and mini turbo out of the slide, or you just fly across the course. But if you're good at it and the others aren't, it gives you a huge advantage. The half-pipe section was heavily neutered here. There used to be 3 piranha plants and 3 fire bars alternating you had to avoid, with the plants coming out of these pipes while the half-pipe was narrow, so you had to dodge them. Now they made the half-pipe wider and moved 2 of the piranha plants so they don't matter unless you're on the half-pipe going for an item, which there are items on the main path too. They also removed 1 of the fire bars and pushed the remaining 2 to the end of the section. Now it's just a straight line for the most part. I really like the floating platforms though. They let you get away from the pack while also letting you take tighter corners, and you don't have to deal with the annoying mud. Also, they make me think of the floating grate section in Wario Stadium. Waluigi Stadium is a really good track and it is fun to drive, but I don't think it should be any higher than this.
Wimps and thwomps and wimps and womps and grindles and spindles and grolls.
As a lover of archaeology, I really love ruins tracks. Dry ruins, grape question block ruins, and in this case, thwomp ruins. The half-buried thwomps at the start, the giant thwomp mouth you drive through, the mossy, overgrown texture everything has, it feels like an ancient thwomp-worshipping society has been lost to time. The obstacles are thematic too. Obviously you have thwomps that weirdly have a face on both sides, and there's giant stone gears that roll down the first hallway and open a new path over the water in laps 2 and 3. Big Indiana Jones vibes, you know? They added anti-gravity walls on the split path, which I don't like, being that it kind of devalues the thwomp threat, but it's a Mushroom Cup ender, so whatever. The ending section does have more prominent thwomps and has this great shortcut where you need to ride this fallen pillar, but it's really narrow, so taking it can be kind of hard. I think Ruins has to be my favorite uncommon level theme. I really like this track.
Excuse me, princess.
When Mario Kart 8 got its very first DLC back on the Wii U in November of 2014.
Don't
what?
Don't make me feel old. We got crossover characters and tracks from other games, including Link and his own track, Hyrule Circuit, among other tracks for later in the ranking.
Spoilers.
You start the track in Hyrule Field, right outside the castle. People usually say that this part of the track sucks because it takes up too much of the track. I counter that notion by saying it's accurate to the Zelda games. Hyrule Field always takes up too much of the world. After a bridge, you glide to and drive through this castle, and that's the Master Sword. This isn't the Temple of Time.
What are you doing?
Just hanging around.
The inside of the castle is really pretty, with the Master Sword and the medallions from Ocarina of Time adorning the stained glass windows. The coolest part of this whole track, though, is featured in this area. Inside the hallway leading up, there are these anti-gravity boosters that react when you hit them, and when you hit all three in quick succession, you unlock a shortcut to jump into the Master Sword and skip the turns here. It even plays the secret sound from Zelda when you do this. The last section takes you through this forest area that I think is Kakiri Forest, judging by the fact that there are Kisses and Dekubabas on the path. The fact that they changed the bats, piranha plants, coins into rupees, and the item roulette sound. It adds so much personality to this track. This is a huge highlight in this game's roster of tracks.
Snow glows white on the mountain tonight.
Whenever someone places Rosalina's Ice World high on their tier list, it's usually because of the Super Mario Galaxy references. But I'm not one of those people. This track has nothing to do with Rosalina, guys. They just put things that are from Galaxy here with no actual substance behind it. Heck, Dragon Driftway has better references to Galaxy. Why is Nintendo obsessed with giving Rosalina ice levels? Why can't we have a space-themed level for Rosalina?
Not fair, not fair, not fair, not fair, not fair, not fair, not fair!
If you can look past that fact, this is one of the best ice tracks in Mario Kart. The giant chasm at the beginning is fun to drift around and a perfect spot to leave bananas for those not paying attention. They did change this section to make it a little wider in 8, which I really don't like, but it doesn't ruin the track. Afterwards is a big half pipe and a frozen lake. The front part of the ice breaks off after the first lap, so you can't take the simpler top path anymore and have to take the more chaotic lower underwater path. Or if you're a true gamer, you can do this. The lake becomes a cave that is a little bland, but the icicles paired with the slippery path keeps it engaging. The end of the cave has a split path, one with coins and the other has boost panels, quickly followed by a mushroom cut that wasn't in the original, and that's a wrap. I feel like this track isn't underrated, but it is overhated. Rosalina's Ice World has good level design, mismatched theming, and dude, are you okay? I'll be fine. Oh man, I hope he's not hurt. Wait a minute, why are you still in my house? Get back here!
That's no rainbow. It's a space station.
When I think of a Mario Kart game, I usually think of the Rainbow Road first. It's always a space adventure where you drive on a magical road made of rainbows, and it's usually the hardest track in the game. Then there's Mario Kart 8. 8's Rainbow Road changed the formula by making the road a space station, making it the most unique Rainbow Road until Mario Kart World came along and did the exact same thing.
He copied my home! Space station.
The track isn't that difficult either. The only really hard turn is right at the start, where you need to brake drift or time a mini turbo to successfully take the turn, lest you fall off the side. The conveyor belts have the same pattern as Toad Factory, where one goes forward to boost you and the other one back to hinder you, forcing you to not only drive well, but also be closer to the other racers. The final section has the two paths that are different colors and are meaningfully different trend, but you can jump from the right path down to the left path, which is really cool. And then you're back at the start. It's really short for a Rainbow Road, but I have a soft spot for it. It's doing something very different, and I feel like it did it well. The theming with the space stations floating around and the fact that this is the only Rainbow Road to not have any magic is awesome. I just wish that it was a little longer or had more difficult turns or something to help it stand out gameplay-wise as well as its theming. Oh well, that's how games are. Whatever happens, happens. We are now in the A tier. These tracks are the best in the game, not including my personal favorites, which are in S tier.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
Madrid Drive is the ideal city level. It has great variety in its track design with the greenhouse, the gallery with the piranha plants coming out of the paintings, the glider section with the lake, and the football field with the Karibo shoes kicking the balls. One thing this track has over the other city tracks is the surplus of Mario enemies too. You have thwomps, Goombas, the previously mentioned piranha plants, and a giant wiggler in the plaza that wakes up more every time you see him. It really feels like a Mario Kart track and not just a city tour. Yeah, most of the track is still road, but they made this track very memorable, and I wish the majority of the city tracks were this good. I feel like they would have been remembered way more fondly.
It's a whole family of rainbows.
Of all the rainbow roads in this game, 3DS Rainbow Road is the most acclaimed, and it's easy to see why. You're on the classic road made of rainbows, but you're surrounded by celestial bodies that you get to drive on, like the rings of Saturn. Then some boost pads and turns before a wavy section of road that reminds me of Wii Rainbow Road, but this time there's holes. If you fall here, you can get an item or jump off at the end. Either way, you land on a giant moon and there's chain chomps rolling around that you need to dodge, keeping the section engaging. Finally, there's this tunnel with more boosts and a glider at the end with rings to fly through, and you get to do this giant finale turn, and this retro is not nearly as good as the original.
What? No, all right. I know that sounds bad.
The road has this weird oil slick effect, where the further away you look, the more blue it becomes, which is a common complaint about this version, but I think these complaints are overblown. Making the road look different here gives each Rainbow Road personality that makes them all feel distinct. The turns, on the other hand, they smoothed out a lot of the turns to make them less tight. Like these offset boosts are now straight. These boosted turns used to have extreme angles to them and now are really shallow, and the giant turn at the end is just not fun anymore. It used to be this big suspenseful finish, like flying straight up in a plane and then diving straight back down. But now it's longer, less extreme, and quite a boring final turn. They also made the track easier. The road on Mario Kart 7 is like maybe 6 Mario's wide on a good day, while in 8 the road is way wider, like at least 9 Mario's. On the Saturn rings, they made the gaps on the edges smaller, so it's just one big drift. The worst part is the ending glider section. I mentioned in the Rock Mountain section that Mario Kart 7 has really free gliding, and the Mario Kart 8 reeled it back. It's really obvious here because you feel like you're being constantly dragged down. In 7, there's also these meteors, so taking the glider isn't as easy as just gliding in a straight line. But there's no longer asteroids, so why wouldn't I take the glider? But the pull, and This track is still really good despite my many complaints. The visuals are in a league of their own, the skybox is gorgeous to look at, and the planets and moons are beautiful. The variety is crazy, the turns are still, for the most part, fun to go around. The idea of driving on planets in a Rainbow Road is inspired, but this retro is just... it's just not it, man. And I'm tired of pretending it is.
Guys, you remember Wario
Stadium. If Waluigi Stadium was a motorcycle stunt track, Wario Stadium is a monster truck rally. There's mud to blast through, though it doesn't pose much of a threat because you can just drive to the nearest boost pad if you get hit, and there's big hills with fire rings to jump through that are offset, so you have to mind your angle of approach or lose all your speed. The token added anti-gravity section is this metal grate. It has fire bars that block the fastest paths, so you need to time your movement or just go around. It looks like Wario dismantled Wario Coliseum, but kept a piece of it for good measure, and it reminds me of Waluigi Stadium, like I said before. The only bad thing I can think of is the dam section at the end. It feels very out of place on this track, but they had to meet the water section quota for this game, so I understand why it's there. Oh, and the music for this track is really good. It's kind of funny that Wario Stadium still shares music with Waluigi Pinball, which isn't an issue at all, seeing as we still have 95 unique remixes.
Yoshi is a pet of the royal family.
Mario Kart 8 doesn't have a whole lot of direct reference tracks in it. You've got Hyrule Circuit, DK Jungle, and Big Blue as a few examples, but Yoshi's Island has 400,000 references and nails all of them. The starting jingle, The coins, every enemy in the foreground and background, and the end race jingle are all pulled straight out of Yoshi's Island. While you drive, you pass through most of the level themes from the game as well, including the fields, the caves, and the clouds. The cherry on top is the cloud at the end. If you hit the cloud, it spawns a bridge that lets you take a much tighter final turn towards the finish line, and you can jump through the goal ring. While this track is fun to drive, it's really simple and very short, so it's over before you want it to be. But hey, so are most Yoshi games.
And the Singapore Grand Prix is go!
Singapore Speedway is not only the best city track in the game, it's also the most beautiful city track. The neon lights, the water spouts, the city in the distance, it's absolute whimsy. On lap 1, you take a cannon up to this rooftop pool with swimming Goombas, and then glide back down the other side. Lap 2 is pretty boring as it's just road, but it doesn't really hurt the track as the rest is so good. After another glider, lap 3 starts with another conveyor belt section like 8's Rainbow Road, which really helps in making this track not feel like a city track. Right after is another glider, and I want to make special mention of that here. I've been beating the dead horse that the gliders in this game are boring, but Singapore does the unthinkable and makes the gliders fun and interesting. You've got the cannon at the start, Glider 2 has rings to fly through, and this section has floating coins, more rings to fly through, an alternate path on the left, and if you get hit and end up falling, there's items on the ground to help you catch back up. The last leg of the track is just lap 2 again because you need to have your healthy helping of landmarks, but Singapore shows that Nintendo can do amazing things with the city tracks. And while not all of them are amazing, I'm happy that we got some bangers along the way.
I want to go faster than anyone ever has.
Nintendo really told F-Zero fans that,
"Today, we're going to eat nothing. You can't do this to me!"
While we wait for Peak to have a new game, we can enjoy Mute City on Mario Kart 8, and they emulate the gameplay of F-Zero really well. The rainbow panels fill your coins, the boosters keep you at that F-Zero speed, and the sharp turns are very reminiscent of F-Zero GX. The only real problem is that there aren't any obstacles on the track, but that's because the other players are the obstacles. You are going so fast that if you get hit in a bad spot, it's gonna take you a while to catch back up. On the final turn, if you have a mushroom, you can take this really cool shortcut and skip the entire endings back and forth. This track is awesome, and while it is a great F-Zero tribute, there's an even better one we'll get to later.
If Daisy won't go on a date with me, I'll throw myself overboard.
You remember how there were a bunch of mid-Double Dash retros in this game? They got better. Daisy Cruiser is one of my favorite Double Dash courses, and while I like the original, this version has so much life that it's a really hard comparison. The start is a little rough because you can go either way around the start, which I actually don't like because I like the serpentine path you had to take, and they made the pool bigger, but you can drive through it, which takes away the hazard that I like from the original. The complaining stops there though as you enter the dining hall. Wow, this place is so vibrant in this game. The chandelier, the windows, the wall decorations, and there's actual people on the tables sliding around. Compare this to the original, it's no contest which one looks better. The below deck section looks amazing, having taken 7's changes to make it underwater, but they took the double box away, which is kind of sad. And I think that's everything? They took the life preservers. Better gameplay or better graphics? I don't want to choose right now.
Yeah, I forget the next couple lines, but then it goes...
Subway.
One of my absolute favorite things that Mario Kart does is make racetracks out of places you shouldn't race, like a shopping mall, a bathroom, Rome, but one of the best is the subway in Super Bell Subway. The track is pretty congested with how narrow it is, but that fact helps the gimmick of the track shine, the train. There's 3 total, 2 driving with you and 1 driving against you, and you'll see them pretty often, so you need to keep a sharp eye out or get obliterated. You can also take mushroom cuts through the off-road, but they're more dangerous as you can't see any trains or bananas that could be around the corner. Or you could take the upper paths that run above the trains. The lines aren't as tight, but it's way safer, and there's a glider at the end of the catwalk, so you can avoid the trains even more. And while you're up there, you can look at the amazing graffiti all over the walls. Look at how cool these are. You could jump onto the train if you wanted for more speed boosts, There are a lot of things to think about while driving and ways to interact with the level in various different ways. Definitely a modern classic of Mario Kart 8, and a plus for train enjoyers, seeing as this is the first train course they ever made. Wild that they never had this idea before now.
Well, you said the tunnel.
I did not. I said parkway.
You meant the tunnel.
I'm surprised it took until 2011 for Nintendo to make a Mario Kart track based on a level from Super Mario Bros. When you finish level 1-1, Mario will walk past a castle and enter this pipe, starting level 1-2. Piranha Plant Slide has several references to that level, with the castle outside and pipe you drive into, item boxes you can drive on, the Goombas walking around, and the titular piranha plants coming out of the pipes. This track brings its own flair though, leaning more to the sewer theming. The rushing water down the center of the path makes you faster, but can leave you susceptible to getting easily hit with an item as your path is predetermined. Pipes embedded into the floor to mess up your drifts. And in the underwater section at the end, there's rushing water that pushes you around and lets you jump the big piranha plant at the end. The ending glider shoots you up and out of the sewer, which I don't really like as it takes away the glider obstacles of the running water, like the screaming statues in DK Jungle, but it shortens the glider so it's a net neutral altogether. And back to the original castle start, which is also recontextualized as the ending castle of 1-2 as well.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
This track is awesome, but I have two small issues with it. First is the final sewer section. It looks fantastic in this game, being an anti-gravity section, but I like the more claustrophobic feeling that this section had in 7. It looks worse literally, but it feels much more like you're driving through a sewer and feels more representative of level 1-2. The other thing is the track's color scheme. If you look at level 1-2, it's got this blue color to it. The original on Mario Kart 7 is the same blue color scheme, but they took this out of the Mario Kart 8 version. Who approved that change?
Evidently a temple hollowed from the solid rock.
One thing I love about the Tour original tracks is that they are really creative. A ninja hideout, a giant bathroom, a holiday mountain, and Piranha Plant Cove, a track based on the Bermuda Triangle. You drive around a temple that looks pretty close to a Mayan temple, with a bunch of Petey Piranha statues and busts all over the place. A platform right at the start has piranha plants on it, and it looks like a sacrificial altar. And there's a platform with Petey Piranha's face on it, like they worshipped him when this place was inhabited. But now everything is flooded and unusable, abandoned and falling apart. There are still people living on the island above though, with huts and a lighthouse. I like the idea that they tell tourists about this ruined temple and about all the crazy stuff that happened, and then sell little trinkets at gift shops. Lap 2 is more temple running, but it has this neat section where these thwomps have boost pads under them, so you can risk getting squished by the thwomp by going for the faster path, or you can just take the hill path to the side. On lap 3, you get to see the sunken ships that the ocean has taken down. There's also giant eels all throughout the track, coming out of holes and swimming through the water, and lots of coral and seaweed, making the area feel reclaimed by the sea and add some really nice visual interest. They did a great job with this track, and I'm really happy they brought it to Mario Kart 8, though I'm sad it's at the apparent loss of the cousin of Piranha Plant Cove and Piranha Plant Slide, Piranha Plant Pipeline.
You forgot to glaze the coconut.
Ah, the most famous Wii track. After being a retro on the 3DS, Coconut Mall returns to us even more vibrant than ever. Maybe a little too vibrant, but it's still really pretty. Most tracks on Wii are really washed out, so seeing this track with some real color to it is awesome. The attention to the smaller details though is what really makes this track for me, like the stairs to the plaza now has a mural on it, and several of the cars in the parking lot come from traffic courses, like the surfboard car in Moonview or the PTT truck in Toad's Turnpike. They did tweak the course design too. The escalators may not look like escalators now, but at least I don't have to squint to see which way I need to go, and my glasses-wearing wife can see where she needs to go too. She will still run into a wall anyway. The fountain area shows off one of the only problems I have with this track, in that the item boxes that were on top of the fountain got moved to right before the section. You still have reason to jump the fountain though because of the coin there, but I prefer the Wii version of this part. In the parking lot, the cars used to drive back and forth over boost pads, so you had the time getting your boost. but now they just stay still until they decide to spin randomly, so this section is way less engaging, which is a concerning pattern with the Wii retros. I really like playing Coconut Mall, but it's like going to In-N-Out for the 3rd time this week. Yeah, it's a fantastic burger, but it would have been cool if they had changed it up. And I heard a great idea from a certain British streamer.
Mmm, so fresh and musty.
In the first level of the game Pepsi Man, you are running down the road and sometimes you run through people's houses. Imagine the track playing out like that. You take the first lap normally through the main body of the mall before deviating and driving through some of the shops on laps 2 and 3. Nintendo is no stranger to changing the layout of fan favorites. Just look at Peach Gardens. I love how the backwards lap makes the track feel fresh. Oh well, Coconut Mall is still a classic and for good reason.
I cast thunderstorm that is the proxy.
The best Mario Kart tracks, rather than making constant references, take inspiration from parts of the Mario universe to make their own thing. Cloud Top Cruise is a great example of this. The whole track takes place in the clouds, similar to the Sky World in many Mario games, as you drive along a beanstalk and bounce on giant balloons. After a bit, you drive onto this parked airship and blast out of a cannon into the stormy clouds ahead. This section, complete with its own music track, has lightning crashing down on some of the boost pads, while others stay safe, so you need to think carefully about which boost to go for, lest you get zapped and lose speed instead. Or do you try for the boost that's about to get hit and risk getting shocked? Once you're out on the other side, you can see that the beanstalk is actually a massive vine coming out of a block. The final bit of the track is very peaceful as you finish off the race and, that's a lot of airships. You are completely outnumbered by Bowser's forces, and yet the music is triumphant and bombastic, like you are sticking it to Bowser. You bounce on his balloons, run along his airship, and drive along his giant metal platform in a thundercloud to get away, and the music is cheering you on the whole way. Such a great feeling that this track gives, and a perfect start to the Special Cup in Mario Kart 8. The Cup's best track, though, goes to the well-established
It's Bowser!
Like Rainbow Road, every Mario Kart has had a Bowser's Castle track, usually right before Rainbow Road in the Special Cup, unless it's a snowflake game that can't follow the rules of its own series. 8's Bowser's Castle is no different, and the front gate,
And oh, what a great entrance!
looks amazing with the spotlights, flames, and cannons. Mwah, chef's kiss. There's statues right inside too that shoot lasers starting on lap 2, like the Bowser statues in Mario Bros. 3. Did anyone else think that the statues in Bowser's Castle on the 64 also shot lasers? Just me? Okay. Bowser Castle tracks usually feel more like obstacle courses with lots of stuff to dodge, like the fire bars and swinging ball and chains here. After the big turn and another fire bar, there's... oh.
So we meet again!
I don't understand why the last 3 main console Mario Karts needed to have a giant mechanical Bowser. Like, I understand this one's different as it doesn't shoot fireballs, instead punching the ground, making it shake, but 3 times? 3? This track continues the two paths
are different colors and aren't meaningfully different.
Trend, ending in a glider, which is kind of boring. You can get hit by the lava geysers, it's just really hard to. This Bowser's Castle is awesome. I just wish it had a different central icon, like a big spinning cylinder, or a big spinning cylinder, or hang on a second.
Crash landing. Fasten your seatbelt.
Of all the
You're not supposed to
drive here tracks, Sunshine Airport is my favorite. The progression of the track is the same as when you go through a real plane boarding sequence. You start in the terminal, waiting for the race to start like you're waiting for your boarding call, which is a part of the track.
This is the final boarding call for Boomerang Bros International Airlines. Flight 117A to Sweet Sweet Canyon, departing from Gate 3.
Then past the baggage handlers, aka the boxes, and under a plane to make it to your plane and jump through like you're boarding before taxiing down the runway so you can take off to the sky. There's even boost pads on the runway, making you gain speed like a real plane would have to before taking off. You then have your flight doing a big U-turn, and if you time it right, play chicken with another plane as you descend and land on the runway before you pass the baggage claim shortcut and you move on to the next lap, ready to board again. No other track in this game does this near exact recreation of a normal everyday process besides maybe going through the mall in Coconut Mall or down the ski slope in Mount Wario. But if you don't want to believe me, you can hear it from my flight instructor friend instead.
Hey man, what's going on?
Hey man, do you have a minute?
Yeah, what's up?
I wanted your thoughts on how accurate Sunshine Airport is.
Is that like the one with the airplanes?
Yeah, that's the one. I wanted to ask you about what you thought of the progression.
You want to land?
No, not that. I wanted to ask you about what you thought of the progression of the track.
You want to take off?
No, listen. I wanted to ask you about what you thought of the progression of the track and how close it is to real boarding and taking off in a real airplane. Owen? Have you ever seen one of those, what video game world would you want to live in, posts on Reddit? I feel like if you asked me that question right now, it would be Wild Woods from this game. The race starts off on the side of a giant tree, another great use of the anti-gravity, where you drive down the natural branches until you get to the unnatural, Shy Guy built village you get to glide over. You move swiftly past the rushing water section and fly down the road to the puddle where the water collects and leaves float with boost ramps and one final mushroom cut to finish the race. The track itself is fun, but the best part is when you slow down and take in the forest for the tree. Wild Woods is so wildly beautiful with a Shy Guy village living within the body of this tree, like Ewoks from Star Wars, having vine pulleys to move their stuff around, and a village of toads at the bottom, living in the puddle at the base of the tree. The original DLC for Mario Kart 8 absolutely cooked with the ideas for the tracks. Basically every new track is an absolute banger, except Ice Ice Outpost. How is this not a research center we can drive through? I mentioned in the Cheap Cheap Beach section that my favorite track theme is the beach, but that's just a preference. It's what the track does with the theme that makes me love it. If a track is a desert with nothing in it, I'm gonna hate the track for being boring, but if the track takes the theme to the logical extreme, like Dolphin Shoals here, it's gonna place very highly for me. Firstly, this track is gorgeous. The rays of sunshine in the water, the variety in set pieces like the dark cave, and the reef with the whirlpool. Man, I wish every track looked this good. Secondly, the track is really fun to drive through. You've got ramps with rings so you can leap with the dolphins. The cave section has a lot of alternate paths you can take by using the pipe jets and water physics to your advantage, and you get to ride a giant eel at the other end of the cave.
Get off of me!
The most memorable part though is when you leave the cave and the saxophone kicks in. The ending glider is a little boring, but it feels like a good palate cleanser after everything you've already passed. Dolphin Shoals never leaves me wanting for more. It's so packed with interesting decisions to make and beautiful music. I love the vibes this track gives off. I can't wait for the next Mario Kart. I really hope there's a beach track too, with more underwater set pieces. It'll blow this track out. I'm not doing this. Most mainline Mario games have the same few themes to their worlds. Desert, ocean, snow, mountain, and sky, to name a few. Each of these have a Mario Kart track that is based on them as well. Dry Dry Desert, Cheap Cheap Beach, Sherbet Land, Choco Mountain, Cloud Top Cruise. The only theme that didn't get its own track that wasn't a Bowser's Castle is the lava theme. That changed when Mario Kart Wii came out and we got Grumble Volcano. This track is a classic of the Wii. You drive around moderately tight turns, go through this cave, and run along floating platforms in the lava. After the cave section, they added a glider ramp to one of the platforms, which I don't like. In the original, you needed to work with the moving platforms to find the right time to get over to that section of track for the best path. Now you can just glide over and it takes all the fun challenge away. There's a burned forest near the end that has fireballs rain down on you, and a split path that's mostly the same, but the left path adds another glider ramp. Once you hit the second lap, the ground starts to shake and fall into the lava, and on the third lap there's massive gaps all over the track, making the sharp turns even harder. I wish other tracks had a gimmick like this, changing the track layout without just redirecting you. This feels so much better. Because of its unique theme, great layout, and really cool gimmick, it's my number 12 track. But the glider I don't like bumps it down to number 13 instead.
What is that melody?
I'm surprised it took until 2011 for Nintendo to make a Mario Kart track based on I already did this intro. I'm really happy they brought back Music Park as a priority retro. The theme of musical instruments you drive on is really unique and fun, and you rarely see it. You are surrounded by giant instruments like horns, a hi-hat, and a violin. You drive along many instruments like a giant piano, a xylophone, and a glockenspiel, which is a kind of metal vibraphone. These instruments also play notes as you drive over them, adding even more to the theme. There are also drums that you bounce off of that take the place of the mushrooms that Mario Kart 7 loves so much. The theme is driven home even more as the piranha plants along the track bang their heads to the music as it plays, as well as your player character also banging along. Probably the best part is the end, where these giant notes bounce in time with the music and create shockwaves for you to trick off of at the risk of being stopped or squished by them. Or you can glide over the top, avoiding the notes but not getting any boosts from them as well. It's very well done risk and reward. I want to draw a comparison to TikTok Clock and why I like this more. Here, running along the ground gives you coins and items at the cost of danger, while the glider grants safety with no reward. You can also dive early to grab an item, but you still have to contend with not hitting the first note and not getting hit by the second, keeping the balance. In TikTok Clock, there are coins in the air and on the ground, and both paths are easy to take because the gears are obvious and not detrimental. Just a side thought, the music in Music Park is great too, mixing a techno beat with real instruments that perfectly fits the neon lights meets brass and strings that the level is going for. All around, a fantastic track that misses out on S tier by only the smallest of margins.
The Rainbow Connection.
Here we are at a crossroad. Two rainbow roads are left to talk about. One in S tier, the other the gatekeeper. And the number 11 track is... Imagine you've been waiting for nearly 2 years for the Booster Course Pass to finish. You've gotten 4 Mario circuits, no Airship Fortress, and way too many tour cities. Finally, you see that light at the end of the tunnel, Wave 6. You check what the new tracks are, and gosh dang it, a 5th Rainbow Road!
Oh no! Anyway,
Wii Rainbow Road being the final track of the BCP feels right. It's the most iconic Rainbow Road, probably beating out the SNES version for the most recognizable Rainbow Road, and one of the few tracks from Wii that hadn't returned in a future game until here. And they really made this one for the fans. They changed the color scheme from this N64 literally a rainbow look in Tour to a slightly more saturated version of the original colors, and when you fall off the track, you still burn up even though Lakitu grabs you. There is one massive problem I have with this version of the track though. They made it too easy. They made the track a lot wider, the turns less tight, and this game has way better controls than Wii did. Wii Rainbow Road on Wii is probably the hardest track among all of the 3D Mario Karts, but hey, it's still Wii Rainbow Road in the end. Petrie, come here for a second. We need new material. This track is a love letter to every fan of the Wii, not like the other 8 Wii retros in the BCP and 11 Wii retros in the whole game were enough for them. It's so weird saying that we're finally at the S tier, my 10 favorite tracks in this game. So without further ado, let's get into it.
fall.
Ah, finally. An opportunity. Maple Treeways. Eh? Ah! Aha!
I knew you wouldn't be able to resist taking over if I left. Who even are you? And why have you been hiding in my house? I'm a friend. I'm Foco. And I just wanted to be part of the video. Doing a few segments for you. Then make your own channel. Jeremy, get rid of this guy.
Wait, I can do impressions and add to the video instead.
Okay. Go for it.
Baba Booey.
Not happening. Take him away.
No, wait! No, let me go, no!
Thanks, Jeremy. So I'm probably never gonna make a Mario Kart Wii video, so I'm just gonna tell you here that Maple Treeway is my favorite Wii track. I love the fall theme. This giant tree has so many twists and turns that are fun to go around. The half pipes still kind of feel off, but let's not worry about that. And this track looks shockingly good for the same wave that brought us Rock Mountain. The biggest difference between this version and the Wii version is the giant wigglers. This version, they tend to walk towards you instead of going from side to side, making them less compelling. I don't really like this, but I'm really bad at timing them on Wii, so I'm pretty neutral on it overall. The other big change is that the net is gone, replaced with a glider, which is a cool idea, but I miss shaking my controller like a madman. Maple Treeway is so good, but the air gets thin this high, so it lands at a respectable place at number 10.
Taste the rainbow!
Once you finally beat Deathborn and become the champion of both Grand Prix, Captain Falcon is able to fuse the champion belts together, and while in his garage, the creators of the world reveal themselves from the belt for one more challenge, a final race on a rainbow road. No obstacles, no guardrails, just pure skill in this staff ghost race. Wait, where are the thwomps? Rainbow Road is the most recognizable track in Mario Kart, full stop. And Rainbow Road for the Super Nintendo is the one that started it all. Having been the final track of Super Mario Kart, it's pretty hard. The turns are all 90-degree pivots, there's no guardrail to catch you if you do mess up, and the thwomps are huge and crush you if you aren't careful. The setup of the thwomps is brilliant too. You start with 2 thwomps that alternate falling, letting you go through with good timing. Then 1 thwomp on a narrow section that you either need to time going under or go around on the thin edge. Then they bring back the dual thwomps on twin thin paths that alternate, so combining the philosophy of the first 2 sets, and then ending on 2 thwomps that drop together with no room on the sides, so you have to time it perfect or thread the needle between them. It's amazing game design. Take a shot every time I say thwomps during this section. Actually don't, I don't want to be responsible for any deaths. They made the track even better than that though. When the thwomps drop, they create shockwaves that you can trick off, and there are ramps you can trick off, or in certain spots, the ramps let you skip corners for cleaner lines if you're good at the track. I am. Like here before the second thwomp, or here you can skip the twin thwomps with a mushroom. And it looks so freaking good, guys. The background is gorgeous with this rainbow on the starless dark night sky, and the hills are having a rave. I already learned my lesson though. I'm not going near any more raves. Also, the reason I'm putting this above the other Rainbow Roads is because it's the most improved and it nails everything I want in a Rainbow Road. When it comes to taking the other Rainbow Roads in their own games, SNES Rainbow Road doesn't stand a chance. OG Wii Rainbow Road clears. OG 3DS Rainbow Road clears. But here, when those 2 are lacking, this Rainbow Road stands above the rest.
The best one of all, the European Spanish accelerated toilet.
I'm gonna level with y'all. I don't understand the Booster Course Pass. Nintendo wanted to add more tracks to Mario Kart 8, and that's a fantastic idea. More tracks to talk about and play. Heck, 96 tracks is a lot of content. But then half the tracks look like dog water, and while I've already made my opinions on that clear, I mean, this is a ranking of those tracks, how on earth did the same people that left Sky High Sunday as oversaturated slop and failed to add the Sunset to Sunset Wilds, despite fans being able to do it, make this track look absolutely wonderful.
That doesn't make sense.
Squeaky Clean Sprint has one of the most unique settings for any Mario Kart track, Big House.
The big house is a reality.
There's a sink that's full of water that you drive through, and you jump into a bathtub, complete with bath bombs, sponges, and bath toys. At the end of it, you get sucked into a drain, kind of like Flushed Away. Well, it's not like Flushed Away since it's a bath drain and not a toilet. Have you guys heard of a game called What Remains of Edith Finch? That game has a bathtub. The current pulls you along as you pass a bunch of trash and a wedding ring.
Nice touch.
And eventually you pop out of the floor drain, where a fan will blow you around on the slick, soapy floor, making you slide out of position. During the glider section, you fly over a toilet, but on laps 2 and 3, the pipes break, creating a jet of water that launches you to a higher shelf at the end. This lets you take extra paths above the sink to grab coins and extra items. Squeaky Clean Sprint feels greater than the sum of its parts. It's wonderfully creative, and in my opinion, the second best Tour original course. Ah yes, the game that saved many a bored person during COVID. What do you mean this track is based on New Leaf? Animal Crossing is pretty varied by location, having a forest section, a glider section through town, a beachside path, and a bridge, and a bunch of references to the games that this track is based on. And to help me show off some of these, here's my actual Animal Crossing character. Hello, villager. Hello, Terry. You have balloons that hold item boxes, like the flying presents. Hitting a rock with a shell will make them drop coins that now look like bells. Fruit will fall from trees when they get hit, and Mr. Rossetti will appear on the road as an obstacle. The other thing that Animal Crossing has is seasons. And so does Animal Crossing. The other seasons also change a couple elements in the level, so while I talk about those, I'm going to rank the seasons too. The worst season is summer, and it takes place in the afternoon. They move the ramps to the beach, and there's only like 2 of them. It's really boring, which sucks because this is the season they use for time trials. Bronze medal goes to autumn, taking place in the very fitting sunset. There are items in the leaf piles, but they are so exceedingly rare from what I gathered that it doesn't change the race at all. My second favorite is spring, which takes place in the morning. The cherry blossoms are beautiful and the ramps make their return, this time in the forest, and there's way more of them, making it way more engaging. Finally, the best season is winter, taking place at night and on Toy Day, which is the Animal Crossing equivalent of Christmas. New and improved with snowboys across the whole track and the best music of the track, no other season tops this. Animal Crossing is my favorite crossover level in the game, and probably the most unique track in the game with the seasons. Tell me in the comments what your favorite of the seasons is. I'd love to hear about it.
Like Bowser.
People who know me in real life know that I love the rain. I love the sound, walking in the rain, the vibe that rain brings. It's my absolute favorite weather. So when I found out that Bowser got a Mario Kart track that's not only in heavy rain, but also is full of neon lights.
Shut up and take my money.
Neo Bowser City is probably the hardest track in Mario Kart 8. The rain here makes the entire track slick, which normally isn't an issue, but a lot of these turns are extremely sharp. I mean, look at this section. It's a spaghetti noodle. This giant turn near the end is especially mean. If you aren't being careful, you will fly off the edge, similar to that one turn in 8's Rainbow Road. A lot of people hate this track for being extremely difficult, but I like having some more difficult tracks in my Mario Kart, like Wii Rainbow Road or Lakeside Park in Super Circuit. But this track used to be even harder. The end of the track is anti-gravity in Mario Kart 8, but in Mario Kart 7, there were hazardous puddles in this section, stopping it from being more mindless, which I like way more. This track has 0 active hazards, which you could argue it doesn't need, but it does take away from the track and knocks it down a few spots. The music is really special though. It's got a mix of other track songs from Mario Kart as well as its own original melody. Despite the negative changes it got, Neo Bowser City is still peak Mario Kart, and I'm really happy it got added to this game.
You are a child's plaything!
Oh, no, not pink. Make it blue. Merry weather. Make it pink. Make it blue. Pink. Blue.
The original GBA version of Ribbon Road was pretty simple, just being a literal road of ribbon in a present dimension. But when the Mario Kart 8 devs got their hands on it, they took it to the moon, completely revamping it to a giant children's room.
This is sick! Got some gifts?
Keeping the track identity by keeping the Ribbon Road. Looking at you, Cheeseland. Before talking about the track itself, I need to talk about the music. It's this hilarious surf tune that makes me want to dance. It's so much fun, and it weirdly fits well in this race. The track itself is split into 3 sections, each representing a different part of the Mushroom Kingdom. The first section has pink ribbon and is based on Peach's castle, with toads, pillars, a white and pink gate, no obstacles, and no enemies present, just like a normal Mario game. The second section is the green ribbon, Bowser's Castle, featuring my favorite Mario enemy, Mecha Koopas. The walls are black and orange and have Bowser shells on top. It's really nice attention to detail. The final section has a Luma Gate and stars on the castle towers, and is based on Rosalina and space, featuring anti-gravity that mimics the weirdness of moving in space. The blue ribbon waves so you can trick on it, but there's shortcuts here, so you gotta be careful not to overshoot, and the waves can really mess you up. Finally, after dodging some clown car jack-in-the-boxes, you return safely to the pink section for the ending. I fell in love with this track because of these unique sections, and I'm so happy they gave Ribbon Road new life in this game.
Look guys, look, it's one of my greatest achievements.
Mount Wario
Good soldiers follow orders.
is probably the most acclaimed track in this game. Most people would probably give this the gold medal unless they gave it to something like 3DS Rainbow Road or Waluigi Pinball. I love the intro cutscene for this track because it kind of lies to you. It starts by showing you crowds and hot air balloons, and then a ski lift and track like a ski resort, and finally the start in a giant plane like a professional skier. On a first playthrough, you'd probably think that this is a ski resort track, but it's so much more than that. Like a movie, you drive down the mountain, starting at the snowy peak and down its icy cliffs, with a really cool shroomless shortcut, and into a giant cave, riding along the walls and through the flowing water that pulls you along. You then drive into a dam control room, which is probably why Wario owns this mountain in the first place. Kinda shocked that Wario supports renewable energy. You then drive along the wall of the dam as water falls with boost pads in it, and you need to hit the boost pads or be dragged down by the water, and on the other side is the make or breaking point, the forest. The forest is a great section because the fallen trees make you want to trick and go faster, which makes the forest more treacherous, and at the end there's a turn with denser trees, so you need to be mega careful not to smack into one. But when you finally do get it right, it feels amazing. In lap 3, we finally make it to the section promised in the intro, this Winter Olympic Games area, complete with ski slaloming, DK Summit snow bumps, and a giant ski ramp that has boost pads to make you feel like you're speeding up to the launch at the end before gliding down to the end of the track. Mount Wario, pause, is so varied and such a strong showing of the creativity of the Mario Kart devs. It's also probably the objective best Mario Kart 8 track, but I have 3 more that I personally like a little more.
The big blue.
Oh, the big blue.
Between the 2 F-Zero tracks, Big Blue is definitely better. While Mute City is closer to an actual F-Zero track in Mario Kart, Big Blue takes the idea of going fast to its logical extreme. Every possible way to go faster is in this stage at one point or another. Lap 1 starts just like Mute City with boost pads and rainbow panels for coins, but also has conveyor belts that you need to stay on for the boost. Lap 2 is a giant water slide, and you really feel the speed here. It's amazing slaloming down the road, trying to stay in the water as it pulls you along. Big Blue is a better water park than Water Park. Let that sink in. Who could it be now? please leave? Lap 3 starts with a cannon shot, and when you land, the announcer calls out. Then more conveyors, but this time they have boost pads, so you have to time changing lanes, as some of them are coming at you and some of them are moving away from you. Are you noticing the pattern? Every section not only has speed boosters, but they require you to think about where you're going, which makes the track require good game sense. The last leg of the track has our final instance of the two paths that are different colors and are meaningfully different trend. But they are different. In fact, just like Mario Kart 8's Rainbow Road, you can jump off the upper path onto the lower path to display our final way to go faster: shortcuts. Big Blue is a masterpiece of game design, and the only reason it's number 3 is just because of preference alone. It's that amazing.
In the embrace of Bowser's flame.
Come back to life!
SNES Bowser Castle is the best retro in this game, hands down. While the glow-up isn't as dramatic as Ribbon Road, they made this track the best version of itself that it could be. The start is a small downgrade as they took out the thwomps here, but the 3-lane section has been changed from getting fresh items to each lane having a unique reason to go down them at any time. The right path has many coins but is out of the way and is the slowest. The middle has no real advantage but it's risk-free, and the left path is the fastest and gives you a second item, but there's a lava geyser that will spin you out if you time it wrong and get hit. Or you can sneak by it on the side if you're a gamer like me. The next section has a thwomp on the left side as you pass and 2 more thwomps at the U-turn of the next 3-lane section. You could take the shortcut through the dirt at the cost of not aligning right with the walls of the next section, stay to the right of the thwomps for a safer path, but being in between the walls can make you an easy target for shells, or if you brave the thwomps, timing it right and turning wide, you align properly so you can ride on top of the walls for items, a faster path with the boosters, and you're safe from projectiles. At the end are bone piranhas, forcing you away from the edges, and it features the most unique thwomp use yet. You want to go when they fall, driving over them and grabbing the coin on top, or else you smack into them when they raise back up. Or you can bypass the section with a mushroom on the far left. It's insane how many choices you have to make during this track. It's so much fun to see how awe-inspiring Bowser's Castle 3 is, and how well the Mario Kart Tour devs can make some tracks look. But now there's only one more left. It's taken us a long time to get here, so let's do it. Ninja Hideaway is my favorite track in Mario Kart 8, and I have so much I want to say about this one. This is a hideaway for ninjas.
There's no way.
But it seems to be run by Wario, with all the mustaches, the garlic symbols, and the W's on the banners, which is a really fun detail. It's so interesting because it feels like a totally different track depending on how you play it. When you first play the track, you'll just drive straight through the hideout. You start on this roof and then drive under this moving ceiling with a bunch of shuriken on it. Then you glide over this garden and through a small sewer exit before returning to the roof. But that's only one way of doing things. There's another way of playing the track. And you realize that this track has so much more. It's not just a hideaway, it's a trick house. And to get through, you need to play like A trick house is a building made to confuse and give advantage to the owner who knows the tricks. Think Koga's gym from the Pokemon anime. In this context, let's re-examine where you can go in Ninja Hideaway. You start on the rooftops, which is a big ninja trope in itself. On the way to the falling ceiling room, you can go up these stairs and go above the trap. Doing this makes me think of the 45-degree rule, or the idea that people won't look up past 45 degrees. You can actually drive on top of the trick ceiling too, and if you time it so you make it all the way across, there's a treasure trove of coins up here, along with some scrolls and gold in the chest, seeming to be the secret place the Shy Guys hide their valuables. This ends up being a second path to the glider section. Backing up a little bit, to the left in the ceiling room, there are piranha plant standees that you can break that reveal a third path to the glider section. When you drive through the ceiling room, you have so many options to consider. Will I make it across for the extra coins? If not, should I turn now and take the hole in the wall? Or should I stay here, letting the ceiling fall and jump off at the end to take the standard path? Right before the glider, during the normal path, are 3 shy ninjas that will appear and disappear, leaving behind bananas that act like caltrops. A caltrop is a booby trap that you leave in an area to deter people from moving through there, like leaving a banana on a shortcut. During the glider section with these shy guys on kites, which is another trope of ninja movies and an obstacle in the glider, which is nice, there's these bamboo chutes that will launch you upward so you can take a new path above the sewer and see some moving gears. This again leads to the rooftops, where you can stay on the upper path with the help of these pinwheels. There's also a new path you can take on laps 2 and 3 on the left of the start line. This glider lets you stay above the normal path at the start of the lap 2, so you could stay off the normal path for the entire second and third lap if you wanted to. Staying out of the way and out of sight, looking down on your targets, waiting for your opportunity, is very much the way of the ninja. This track is dripping with ninja references and details. It's so much fun just to explore in time trials and see all the fun little Easter eggs they added. This track really only has 2 problems. It's too complicated on a first playthrough, which fits the trick house theme, but it still hurts the track a little bit. And that the colors are too saturated. It's got that Wave 1 ugliness. So Nintendo! Bring back Ninja Hideaway in Mario Kart World DLC, and my life is yours! Finally, I'm at the end of the video. Here's the full tier list I made for those who want to see everything together. It's pretty annoying when people say, oh, this took me so long to make, please like and subscribe. But seriously, I started my notes document on February 23rd of 2025. I wrote this part of the script on December 10th of 2025, a total script length of 44 pages for the rough draft, May 28th, 2026, and 54 pages for the final draft and recordings. Wow. I also want to do a shout out to smaller creators like me that make similar videos to what I'm gonna work on, and for this video I'm sending you in the direction of the Undersea Grotto. His video on desert tracks is really good, so I'm gonna leave a link to that in the description. I want to say thank you to Petrie for being there for me, my wife Goose for supporting me throughout the video making process, and thank you so very much for watching this far. I will make more videos. I have a full document of video ideas that I will get to eventually, but for now, remember that you can do anything that you set your mind to, but nothing can happen till you swing the bat. Catch you all in the next one.